Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Chilluminati podcast, episode 323. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Mike Martin, joined by two of the best live show improv co-hosts you could possibly ask for, Alex and Jesse.
Oh, hush up, you.
Oh, Mathis had a good show, you guys. He's feeling
It was a
good.
great show. I think it was just a great show overall. I really think it was one of our better live shows that we've done.
Great audience.
I had a great time.
Yeah, good
The
stuff.
audience was phenomenal. Yeah,
We tried out a
everybody
new
was
format.
great.
We switched it up a little bit, I feel like. Slightly. I feel like everybody who came to see what they saw last time got a little taste. But there was some
a lot of
surprises to be
returning
had.
people to the live show. A lot of first timers.
You know what? This is the first time we had as many returning people as we've had.
Means we did something right.
Yeah, that's good. That's very nice.
Yeah, I always get worried if every time it's like we're all brand new and it's like, huh. All right.
You know what? I'm fine with
That's
new
good.
people showing up because
No,
it is
I want
kind of like
mix.
a ticket lotto system where there's only so many and they go so fast.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. But yeah, it's nice to see people who are like, I wanted more of this, which by the way, what are you doing? Why? What happened to you? Who hurt you that you're like, I want to go watch these guys live again?
I want to
I
fly
have a theory.
to
I have a
America. Yeah.
I have a theory is that they've been listening to us for so long, most of their brain is filled with the knowledge that we now have. So
You
they
think
don't
they're
have
just-
many people to relate to
They're
anymore.
just in love with us.
So they just,
Right, yeah,
it's
no,
not even the
exactly.
love. It's just they have nobody to relate to anymore. So go until it's like going to a convention.
We sort of like a cult separated them from everyone who knows
Correct.
better.
Huh?
Right. Yeah. No, that
Exactly
checks out.
correct.
I'm going to tell you something. If I had to fly from France every time I hung out with you guys, I would do it less.
Oh, you mean French
Yeah,
guy?
no.
No, he lives there now.
French
We had
guy.
to call him out on that because we're like, you came from France? He's like, no, I live here. We're like, what? So the next year he brought his passport and he really was from France. He just lives in Chicago.
What? Okay, wait. Okay.
But
That's how much did you have to do with him living in Chicago now?
I'm going to take full credit.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true, but I will.
That's great. Good.
Yeah.
Also, like my family was there. They want to live in Chicago now. Chicago is just like
It's a great
beautiful
city.
fucking city. Like
Yeah.
it's so walkable. It was
If
just
you live
nice.
in like
I
one of the
enjoyed
real,
fuck out of it.
if you live in one of the real giant cities, right? That's like on the coasts. Chicago is like just like that, except it's like cheap.
And it also has, there's like a Midwestern kindness to it.
Sure,
Where
because
it's like New York is fast. We're doing things are happening. LA is like basically New York is shut up, get out of my way, love ya. And LA is like, hey man, take your time, but I hate your guts.
LA is like the vampires from Blade are real and they're out there and you better be careful.
Yeah,
that's what it's like.
And then Chicago is just a city that's like, we exist, we know we're here, there's money here for sure, but like also, aren't you just sweet?
Here's like a
there's
big
that,
ass
like,
sandwich.
vibe.
Here's a parking spot. Dude, it
Well, the
was
reason is 'cause,
$20
like,
to get a
what-
burger
from-
and a beer. That's like
other than
2009.
Chicago, if you were in Chicago, where else could you realistically go? Like LA spans the entire state. There's so many different versions of LA. New York is near New England. There's lots of places you can go. If not New York, New Jersey's right there, etc. But Chicago, after you like leave Chicago, what do you have? Like Milwaukee?
I mean, you can go north, and there's a lot of suburbs north of Chicago that are very nice. But if you go south, you're in farmland. If you
Yeah, it's
go east
nothing.
and west, you're like in a lake and then farmland. You know, there's like not, it's kind of by itself. Yeah.
Chicago's not that far from like Indianapolis which is not as big or Milwaukee.
I would not want to live in Indianapolis.
Oh, damn. All right. I mean, look,
As someone who lived
Actually,
in Ohio who had
yeah.
to drive through Indianapolis, that'd be like someone saying, I want to go live in like Phoenix, Arizona.
we've been to
why,
Indianapolis
dude?
for.
Why?
Isn't that where? What's that con?
Indie PopCon.
Indie PopCon. Yeah, fucking obviously.
Just because
that
they have
a few
one
times.
incredibly good steakhouse, that's most cities in the world.
Oh,
Is that?
but
oh,
no,
man, that
that's
steakhouse was so fucking good.
That's
dude.
one of the best. That's one of the best steakhouses I've ever been in. St. Elmo's Steakhouse.
It's great. Admittedly,
It's almost
great,
worth.
but
It's
also
almost worth living. I'm from Los Angeles, so it's like there's not as much culture as there is in Los Angeles, Indianapolis. But I almost would move there just for the prices and the horseradish on the shrimp cocktail. Almost. Chicago is just, it's crazy because you don't think there's another place out there if you're from New York or LA that's like kind of the same big as those places around.
it's the third biggest city in the country. So
And
like
it's big and it's like easy mode prices. Like it's crazy.
Yeah,
we had a
that's
lot
what
of
was crazy
experiences
to
where
me.
we had that LA shock of like,
That's
we
it.
bought
Beer.
3 meals
Yeah.
and multiple drinks and it was like $60.
Yeah.
Beer is like half price. Yeah, straight up. Beer is like half price, and all food costs like 70% of what it costs.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And shout out to the
wild.
Polish place out in Schoenberg.
Bakauka, dude. Shout outs Bakauka, dude.
Loud as fuck, but really fun.
Shout out to our waitress who was either 12 or 25. I'm not sure.
Or 71. I have no
also,
idea.
I don't think she liked any of us.
She said we were nice.
At the end, she came out and was like, thank y'all. Like, she was very sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was Halloween though. It was scary.
Just like our Patreon.
Oh,
Nice. Good. Like that. Yes.
you look, hey, yes. Oh, it's so scary over there. Patreon.com/Chilluminati pod. Go there. There's so many features that it's scary. And we just cut off the head of the Patreon. And now there's one low price, a $15 tier. Just get in there. And there's still the light tier if you don't care about any of this stuff. And you just want to give us $5 and get ad-free episodes. You can do that too. Patreon.com/Chilluminati pod. It's sickeningly good of a deal. Is that better?
Incredible. I just gave all my money.
That's what you
back
wanted?
to the Patreon. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you so much to ZocDoc for sponsoring today's episode. And if you're like me and you do, the dentist thing twice a year for your cleaning, and the dentist scares the crap out of you and you've pushed it off, well, don't worry. We can at the very least make putting that appointment into your schedule a little easier thanks to ZocDoc. And why not book it today? ZocDoc makes it easy to find the right doctor right now, and it's all online. You'll probably be able to book an appointment before the end of this ad if you really wanted to. And honestly, as I keep getting older, I keep asking, or really catching myself thinking I should just go to the doctor more to deal with things. And dentist is one of the biggest things that I just have such a big, unreasonable fear of. Maybe it's not unreasonable. I mean, it's just, fucking dentists are scary. My teeth are fragile. But that's where ZocDoc comes in. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors and click to instantly book an appointment. With ZocDoc, you can book in-network appointments with over 100,000 doctors across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, primary care to urgent care, and so much more. You can filter for doctors who take your insurance, are located nearby, and are a good fit for any medical need you may have, and are highly rated by verified patients. And once you find the right doctor, you can see their actual appointment openings, choose a time slot that works for you, and click to instantly book a visit. Appointments made through ZocDoc also happen fast, typically within 24 to 72 hours of booking. More often than not, you can even get same-day appointments. I just use ZocDoc. I have forever, and if you're like me and doing things without having to make a phone call is the easiest, this is for you. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments right now. Go to ZocDoc.com/chill to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/chill. ZocDoc.com/chill. We're switching gears again because we haven't tackled this genre in a little bit. After some magic, some true crime, some cool stories and from the past found from Chilluminati documents in their HQ that Alex dug up last week.
That was crazy.
This week, we're going back to the world of aliens.
Hey there.
The reason I'm excited is because one of the reasons I'm excited because this is one of the topics I thought we covered and we had done, but we have not at all done. And this is one of those.
You said you conflated it with another one?
Because the name of the individual in this one is the same name as one of the individuals in the one we've done.
Oh shit.
And also it took place 5 years after that one.
Okay.
So it was right in that time frame. This is
it's like Luke Wilson and Owen Wilson.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is what I would consider a pillar of the alien abduction phenomena when it comes to the kind of encounters. Like it's what ends up being a multi-decade long saga has become kind of like a touchstone for ufology as to similar threads we still see today with abduction cases. Because this is a case that's incredibly dense. We have a ton of detail on it, and it was so exhaustively documented, it remains just a benchmark in the entire field 50 years later, just with how much investigation was done on this case. And we have never fucking covered it. We are talking about the Andreasson Affair. And I don't even know if you two even know what that is.
When you said we are talking about I thought you were about to say Andromeda Strain.
The Andromeda Strain by Guillermo del Toro and Michael Crichton.
Yeah, I swear to God, I thought that, like, I've never heard of this before in my life.
Okay, that doesn't surprise me. Alex, I feel like maybe would have heard about this, but maybe
I
not,
just don't know what that word looks like written down, but I don't know that I've heard of this.
All right. Well, this is not one of those like the other ones we've done with Rendlesham Forest and stuff where it's like lights in the sky or, the lonely farmer story of Area 51. This is more of like a documented investigation of a woman's abduction and the places she goes on a UFO with her alien friends. And it kind of begins
No
with
Man's Land. All the places you'll go with your alien friends.
This is the David Lynch part of the story every time. It's always like, there was a dude chopping meat in the back. I don't know what that's supposed to symbolize. Maybe that was my dad. I don't know.
We're going to refresh your memories on some of the stuff, but this is absolutely what would be considered a close encounter of the fourth kind. This is your very psychedelic kind of experience.
That's like over the shirt.
Yes.
Get this man out of here. Boo this man.
Is that? I don't know. I don't know the reference. I don't know the fucking reference. God damn it.
It's okay. It's all right. Just going for that home run. It wasn't quite a home run, guys. That's all right. Only got to second or third base.
Right. The story allegedly begins with a family home that gets plunged into darkness with a pulsating glow that envelops their backyard. It involves a 3-foot humanoid creatures who, according to the investigators, find walls no obstacle to free passage, quote unquote.
Does that mean they can walk through walls?
The aliens could walk through walls, which is
an obnoxious way of writing that fact down. I'm just saying.
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely.
I'm a creature who believes that walls are mere illusions.
No obstacle to free passage for them. And what was later described as, quote, erased from her conscious mind, but later recalled under hypnotic regression, which obviously we'll put forward.
Oh, yeah, stuff is so rough, dude.
I know. And it was a story of being taken aboard their craft and subjected to physical examination. What makes this case kind of the cornerstone is, like I said earlier, the staggering level of detail. And the main source that we're using today is a book called The Andreasson Affair, written by Raymond E. Fowler. And the author of that book was a member of the original investigative team. And he was described by his peers as a, quote, cautious and careful UFO investigator, whose work should be given, quote unquote, high credibility, which I admit is meaningless, but we're going to get to why I think there's actually something here. Because while this isn't like a tabloid story, this is still a book written for entertainment, right? Like there's still going to be a narrative flair to the book as it's written.
It's a pulpy affair, is what you're saying.
Yes, it's a pretty pulpy affair. But this is still a book that's based on a 12-month investigation that produced a 528-page confidential report. Are you referencing Pulp Fiction there or something?
It's so interesting to me that when Alex says it's a pulpy affair, it sounds natural, but then you going, it's a pulpy affair sounds insane. And I don't know why. And it made me laugh so hard.
I have a very stilted delivery, unfortunately, a lot of the time. But the book that was written was based on the 528-page confidential report that was done over the course of 12 months.
How many pages did you just say?
528 pages.
That's not a police report?
No, but it's... We're going to get into the details of it here.
That's a lot of work if that's not like bureaucratic paperwork, that is a lot of pages.
Yeah. Well, the team that investigated it conducted, quote, stress analysis tests, psychiatric examinations, character checks, like background checks, extensive lie detector testing, we now know today isn't really super reliable. And their conclusion was that the witnesses, the main character of the story, and this is where the names get confused. Her name is Betty Andreasson, and we did Betty and Barney Hill, which I thought was the same story.
This is on that level of like influential UFO case?
Yes, and you'll see why. This is one of the first documented, I would consider, fourth kind encounters, like where it's really psychedelic in nature. And if you've ever done
really
psychedelics,
it's like, I never heard of this.
Yeah, this is entirely new in a way that I'm like, okay.
Yeah, let's do it then. I'm excited. Yeah, the witnesses were Betty Andreasson and her daughter, and they both came to the conclusion that they were telling the truth. The investigation found not the slightest evidence of hoax or contrivance. Again, this guy writes like he's up his own ass.
What? He's writing like the guy that I made up from last week. Like he's writing like it's like 1904.
I know. It's annoying as shit. It's 19. The book got written in the early 70s. The actual event took place in 1967.
So we're past like
5 years after
the Rolling
Betty,
Stones are out. Like there's no excuse for this.
This is 5 years after Betty and Barney Hill. Right around then. But here's where I think willingness to maybe accept that this is real comes in, because this was such a compelling case that it got the attention of, and the book's introduction was written by the most important and respected UFO researcher at the time on the planet, and still arguably to this day, and none other than Dr. J. Allen Hynek.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
The guy who said it. The guy
who wrote Project Blue Book for the government, who came out and said he went in as a non-believer and walked out as a believer. Yeah, the guy who created the scale of close encounters of first, second, and third kind. And the director of the Center of UFO Studies at this time. Now, for those who do need a quick refresher, J. Allen Hynek is arguably the godfather of the scientific aspect of ufology. The man was a nuts and bolts. He'd look for like kind of guy. He'd be looking for physical evidence of things happening, dents in the grass, burn marks, that kind of stuff. He is the man who created the entire framework for how we talk about this stuff to this day. He was an academic astronomer. He was not a quote unquote believer in the fact that the Air Force hired him as their chief astronomical consultant for Project Blue Book. And his job, plain and simple, was to be the quote adult in the room. The skeptic who could debunk all these sightings that the Air Force was getting from their own pilots and outside. And his job, as he talked about, was to either pass them along as weather balloons, planets, swamp gas. The swamp gas explanation literally comes from Dr. J. Allen Hynek. He was the one that introduced that theory when the Project Blue Book kind of got let out. But after 2 decades of seeing what he considered too many credible reports that the government told him to come up with an excuse for anyway, he flipped his belief. He became one of the more prominent voices arguing that the UFO phenomenon was real and deserved serious academic study. He's the one who created the classification system we still use, the close encounter scale. You have a close encounter of the first kind, which is just the sighting of a UFO seen within 500 feet. The close encounter of a second kind is a sighting that leaves physical traces, landmarks on the grass, radiation, burn marks. So your car gets like stalled, electrical phenomena, that kind of thing. And then you have a close encounter of the third kind, which is then being able to see the occupants of whatever this vehicle is, the often humanoid occupants. That's when there's a craft and someone sees a gray through like a window or what have you. But
the movie.
Steven Spielberg worked with J. Allen Hynek to create
the movie,
the Close Encounters of the Third Kind movie. Like directly, Hynek was consulting for the script on the movie set. He was involved. The Project Blue Book and all that shit was involved in that movie. So yes, exactly like the movie. And Spielberg's next movie is about the Nimitz encounter. That's like he's making. His next movie is another UFO movie.
Interesting.
I think his next movie's Gremlins 3. Just kidding.
He didn't direct Gremlins, did he?
Someone save us from him. He's out of control.
He's out of control. Yeah, there's a lot of movies.
Something's occurring, guys.
But the Andreasson Affair is a textbook example of what ufologists would later have to add to the scale, which is the close encounter of the fourth kind, abduction scenarios. This is the one Hynek and other what we consider nuts and bolts researchers were most uncomfortable with, because abduction scenarios, even the ones reported to him back then, were always subjective. They were messy, and it was always very, very weird. And in his introduction to the Andreasson Affair book, Hynek himself admits this case goes way beyond anything simple. He says it involves, quote, abduction, mental telepathy, mystical symbolism, and physical contact. He called it a case of very high strangeness and said it leads down many paths that make Alice's wanderings in Wonderland pale by comparison. his words. And that's, you know, and he's true. This is where like that's if you have an understanding of psychedelic experiences, this is kind of a good episode to have that understanding of.
Fair enough.
Also,
fair enough.
Sure. But also like, this is also going to be an episode where it's just going to be easiest if we just go in assuming this happened to get through the story, understanding that the source is a woman who did eventually go through hypnotic regression, or we'll talk about what some of the stuff was. Hynek, the scientist, put his reputation on the line for this story in a lot of ways. And Jesse, I just want to read you a quick quote from the passage in his own words here, so you know kind of just what he was thinking at the time. This is Hynek.
Those who still hold that the entire subject of UFOs is nonsense will be sorely challenged if they have the courage to take an honest look at the present book. That rhymed. It's great. It would take an imagination of the highest order to explain the reported happenings described herein as mere misidentification of balloons, aircraft, meteors, or planets! Exclamation. Neither is there the slightest evidence of hoax or contrivance.
And that's a huge endorsement. The top guy, you know, scientist, is on the record saying he cannot find a quote unquote terrestrial explanation for what happened to this family, because it did happen to the family. And that something is why we're covering this whole thing in the first place. The Andreasson Affair is a benchmark of high strangeness abductions. It's a story that came out of Betty's hypnosis, is not clean. It's sci-fi narrative about aliens from Zeta Reticuli coming to warn us about nuclear weapons. It's a deeply, deeply psychedelic, symbolic, and reality-bending experience, and it involves bizarre imagery, floating in bubbles, journeys through different colored worlds, encounters with a giant bird wreathed in flame, and a cryptic, quasi-religious tests.
A bird wreathed in flame?
Yeah, we'll get. Just hang tight. We'll get there.
Did Kojima?
The Hunger Games?
The Kojima director. Yeah. Kojima came up with this. The entire sprawling saga, which would go on to span 5 books and decades of research. We're only talking about the first book, which is based on that, you know, that research of the investigation. All began on one single mundane winter night in South Ashburn, Massachusetts, and it would happen around 1967. The power in the house was about to go out, and someone was about to come through the door. So we have this massive, game-changing endorsement from Hynek. We have now we want to look into just a little bit about the author, Raymond E. Fowler, and talk about who he was in this. So you have an understanding of who's writing this book. Because he's also a huge critical figure in this. He was basically, at the time, the head of the Massachusetts chapter of MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, for those who don't remember. And he was known as a meticulous, sober, nuts to bolts investigator. And he was an Air Force veteran, a systems analyst, and a man who liked data, details, and corroboration. He was kind of just the serious dude and skeptical investigator you'd want looking at a case like this. He would go on to write several books on this case alone. The Andreasson Affair is the first, which is the narrative account based on the investigation, like I said earlier. But I do want to get this out of the way, which is a very Chilluminati point. We are using his book and reading this book as a source, but it is a book. We are reading a story that has been structured. He's edited it and presented it in an author narrative form. And he is, to his credit, a good storyteller. He builds tension. He creates cliffhangers at the end of chapters. He's arranging the chaos of a 12-month investigation into a clean, readable narrative. And I think I respect him because it's similar to how I do things like on this show often. But there is a level of showmanship at play in his book. We're not reading the raw, dry 500-page case file. So like, there is obviously questionable things within the book itself, and to take it all as pure fact would also be foolish. But if it sounds interesting, I'm obviously going to be leaving a lot out, and it's always worth getting like a read. You can get it on like an audiobook for like $1 or $2 if you have Kindle. Like you can get it for a few bucks if you want, and the paperback's like $20. But I just want you to keep that in mind because I'm not going to repeat it anymore. I'm going to go in as if this is happening, so we can just go through the story and and try not to keep doubling down on Maybe it did, maybe it didn't happen. That said, the Casey's building is what makes this a landmark. It helped codify what we now call the close encounter of the fourth kind, which is officially part of the scale. And as we said, Hynek's original scale of 1, 2, and 3 was all about external events. You see a UFO, you see a physical trace or find one, you see a being over there. It's something you observe. A CE4 is something else entirely. It's when the phenomenon stops being over there and starts becoming internal. It happens to you. You are taken. And because of this, the entire nature of the evidence changes. The evidence isn't a landing pod or a blurry photograph. The evidence is the person. It's their testimony, their trauma, the missing time, the strange lingering psychological and physical after effects that did linger. And this is why nuts and bolts ufologists of the 60s and 70s were very uncomfortable with the abduction phenomenon, arguably still are to this day. It is messy, it is subjective, and it is profoundly fucking weird every time. You can't point a tool at it and measure anything about this thing. The Andreasson Affair is the poster child for this. And that personal, subjective nature of the event is clear from the very beginning. On the night of January 25th, 1967, after the event, Betty and her family didn't just shake it off or go to bed. We're going to get into the event in a minute. The next clear memory they have, missing time, was just being in the living room. The power that had just went off was back on. The house was quiet, but she, her children, and her parents were all in a strange, disoriented state. She said it was like coming out of a daze. She had a vague, disturbing, what she called splinter in her mind, as she would later call it also in hypnotic regression. And she could,
interesting imagery.
And yet she could almost remember something, beings or something happening. She almost remembered feeling like she had been taken somewhere, but her conscious mind, maybe in a form of self-protection, had slammed the door shut on that memory. And trauma, physically, your brain often does that. It's a way of survival for your brain. If something that would completely break you was so traumatic in your past, you often your memory just blacks it out. And sometimes it can be anything that can trigger that memory coming back. But at this moment, after just blinking and something was wrong, all she was left with was a profound sense of unease and a gap with a period of missing time where something impossible had occurred. And for years after this, she tried to just rationalize it. She was a devout Christian. She tried to frame it as a religious or angelic experience, maybe. But the fragments that she could remember when they did trickle back, the beings she remembered had large wraparound eyes and a cold clinical nature to them. It felt anything but religious when she had memories of it. For her, it was kind of scary and a very unresolved violation of her own psyche. And this splinter in her mind, as she called it, festered in her mind for 8 years. She tried to live a normal life, but the event just kept haunting her. Then in 1975, the cultural landscape had shifted. Dr. J. Allen Hynek, in his new role as the world's preeminent scientific ufologist, had founded the Center for UFO Studies, CUFOS. So we have MUFON and CUFOS. The center was actively soliciting reports, placing ads in magazines and newspapers, asking for people who had experienced close encounters to come forward. Betty saw one of these ads. For her, it was almost like I would consider kind of like a permission slip from somebody who's credible and scientific source, maybe trusted. It was the first time she realized she maybe isn't insane and that this thing that she can kind of remember that had happened to her might be part of a larger recognized phenomena. So she sat down and penned a letter on August 20th, 1975. But she didn't just write, "Dear Dr. Hynek, I saw a UFO." She produced a sprawling 50-page document that she wrote to Hynek.
A novella.
It was apparently chaotic, very stream of consciousness kind of collection of her fragmented memories. It was filled with her own hand-drawn sketches of the beings, diagrams of the craft, and pages of bizarre automatic writing style poetry about her experience. For those who don't know what automatic writing is, it's the idea of like a Ouija board kind of thing, but you're just holding a pen and you're something
it's kind of like the Gnosis. It's kind of like the Gnosis thing, right? Where it's like you're
Channeling almost,
You're
but
getting
via pen.
your mind is writing, but your brain is not writing. It's like you're letting your brain, you're channeling pure zippity doodah, if you will.
Yeah. I like it again, thanks to psychedelic experiences. I know what that, like, I do like understand what that is. Yeah. And it was for her, in effect, her subconscious just screaming to be heard, like almost kind of like just a straight raw data dump of the trauma that she had been suppressing for nearly a decade. Because I imagine as she's sitting there writing this stuff, as she writes one thing, that might trigger like another memory of another thing. There's something about having a memory, but then saying it out loud or writing it down that often pushes your mind to remember other things that are connected to it. I've experienced
That's why it's always so weird, specifically. I think.
Yeah, where you're like, I talk about something and it, like talking about it out loud, I'm like, oh my God. And then exactly. So I do wonder if this is like 50 pages of that. Now, most local UFO groups would have like probably looked at this 50-page kind of automatic poetry filled letter from a religious housewife and failed and maybe threw it away because they were not looking for abduction stuff a lot of the time. But the letter was so detailed, so sincere in its confusion, and so fucking strange that folks at Kufos flagged it as something to look further into. As they looked into it, they believed that they didn't think the person who was writing it was a hoaxer. This was someone who seemed genuinely traumatized and just looking for answers. So they forwarded the letter to their best man in Massachusetts, the head of the local MUFON chapter, Raymond Fowler. Fowler received the letter and was himself about to dismiss it. Alex, I'm going to have you read a quote from Fowler on his initial reaction to the letter here when he got this thing in his mail here.
At first glance, the letter seemed to be the product of a religious nut. However, a second reading showed that the letter contained most of the elements of a classical close encounter of the third kind. The witness was either telling the truth, was a superb liar, or was a victim of a very complex hallucination. I decided to investigate.
There is no CE4 at this time yet. And that's what he did. Fowler and his team, which again included, his team ended up including a physicist, an electronics engineer, and a solar physicist. The four of them began a formal 12-month investigation into Betty Andreasson. This would be a skeptical, in-depth investigation. They conducted detailed background checks on the whole fucking family. They had the whole family do psychological workups. They very quickly hit a wall, though, because Betty's conscious memory was not cooperating. She could only remember up to the point of a red light and the beings entering her home. And then after that, it was a blur of fragments and chaos. Her mind seemingly just was locking a lot of this away. So for them at this time, the only way to get the full story was to bypass the conscious mind. And so the team brought in a specialist, a Dr. Harold P.N. Edelstein, who was a respected local hypnotherapist, to conduct a series of hypnotic regression sessions.
How do you suppose you get respect as a hypnotherapist locally?
Don't think you
named. What was it named? Peen? Was that the man's name?
Dr. Harold P.N. Edelstein.
Harold P.N. Edelstein?
Dr. P.N. Edelstein? Hello?
Dr. P.N. Edelstein, the hypnotherapist?
The famed hypnotherapist, Dr. P.N. Edelstein?
That's like air hypnosis's like fucking enemy. Dr. P. Edelstein.
That's the guy he got who's like, he's like that dude that you rescued in Metal Gear Solid. He like doesn't want to be there, but he's like under duress. Dr. P. Edelstein, is my machine ready? And you're like, he's like, no, it's not ready. I'm trying my best. He's like, I don't. You know, he's like, you get it.
Yeah.
You understand. You played it.
The bit goes from there.
You get the trope.
But it's from these hypnotic regression sessions where the entire bizarre narrative of the book comes from. It's from these 13. They did 13 exhaustive, emotionally traumatic sessions where Betty, under hypnosis, relived the night of January 25th, 1967, moment by moment. And at the end of this over 12-month investigation, after they had the full insane story on tape, Fowler's team did one last thing. They put Betty and her husband, Wino, in front of, her father.
Whoa.
Time out. You can't,
back up. Dude's name is Wino?
Wino.
That's almost as bad as the Defunctland guy being called Kevin Perjurer. That's rough.
Yeah.
He's like, hello,
sorry,
I make documentaries. My name is Mr. Liar. Hello.
Yeah. It's her father, Wino. Sorry, Betty and her father, because her husband,
her
husband
father,
wasn't.
The Wino,
wasn't there because he was in the hospital for a couple of nights.
Because
he
drinking
got into a
his ass to
small car accident. I think it was
drunk driving.
Yeah, no, he wasn't drinking himself to death.
All right, well,
different.
Okay, well, fine.
So they put Betty and her father, Wino, in front of a psychological stress evaluator, PSE, which is a type of lie detector test. And they were asked questions like, are you attempting to perpetrate a hoax about seeing a UFO and its occupants?
Are you drunk right now?
Yeah. Or did you see small alien beings pass right through your closed kitchen door? Were you taken aboard a spacecraft and given an examination by alien beings?
If a cop started to ask me this, I'd be like, what? What are you talking about?
Jesse, I'm going to read you. This is just out of the book. What the analyst's conclusion was after the test.
It is extremely unusual that we would render an opinion as definitive as we would in this particular instance. In the opinion of this analyst, the results are conclusive. They were telling the truth with regards to the 1967 incident.
So whether you take lie detector texts into account nowadays, we know they are extremely not great. They're rather don't always. I should say they. Do we even know? Are they considered useless now? I don't even know.
I don't think
they will not hold up in court.
Yeah,
they don't hold up in court. Okay, so it's probably just for
you can take
cops. Yeah, I think cops still give them and stuff to help themselves investigate.
Yeah. Random dudes on TikTok will give it to other random dudes to see if they're cheating on their girl and then make a video about it. Yeah.
I don't think it's legally binding.
Yeah, no, it's not admissible in court. Okay, so the last thing I want to cover to really grasp why people do find this case foundational is because of the person at the center of it. One of the biggest strengths of the Andreasson Affair, the reason it wasn't just thrown in the crank pile, is Betty Andreasson herself. If she were to if you were to custom build the perfect abduction witness as who you'd want as a credible person, and not some crazy person in the middle of the woods who, why was it them? Someone that you could maybe see as having no motive, or not one that I could find, at least Betty would be the person I think you would build. We're 1967, South Ashburnham, Massachusetts, a place I've never been to, even though I lived in Mass for a good long time. What this place is, though, is a small, rural, working class town in New England. This is it was a quiet, conservative, salt of the earth kind of place. And in this town is where the Andreasson family lived, in an old farmhouse that they bought as a handyman special. And at the center is Betty Andreasson. At the time of the event, she is 30 years old. Keep that in mind when I'm about to tell you how many kids she has. She is not a college-educated intellectual, sci-fi author, or a person with any interest in the paranormal or ufology. She is a housewife and a mother. She is the mother of 7 children. And she is 30 years old. I am almost 40.
What year? Hold on. What year was
1967.
Sure. But if she's 30 and at least 7 years ago, she started having kids at minimum. Right?
So the oldest in their family was 11 years old.
So she was having kids, what, 19?
19 was her first kid.
So if you go back 10, that's 57. I get that. That was still during the time period where it was you could lose some kids. You got to have a lot of kids.
1967 is a time where you could still lose kids?
57 is, if we go back 10.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
57, 56 would be your first kid. That was still post-war. That's baby boomers.
Yeah, you're
that's
right.
You got to have kids because we need to repopulate. That's a different vibe.
Yeah.
Man, that's fair. Her kids were Becky, James Jr., Mark, Scott, Todd, Bonnie, and Cindy. And they ranged from 11 years all the way down to 3 years old. And her daily life was basically a nonstop, chaotic, and exhausting loop of cooking, cleaning, laundry, managing a household of 9 fucking people. There was not a lot of leisure time for her as a housewife with 7 fucking kids that are the oldest being 11 out of 7 just stresses me out thinking about it. I have 3 younger nieces and a nephew, and after a day, I'm tired. Her life at this point is purely hands-on 1960s domestic reality, and the only other pillar of her existence, the one that defines her worldview at this time, is her faith. This is, I think, the single most important thing to understand about Betty for this story is that she is a devout, born-again Christian. Her faith was intense. Go to church, not just like a go to church on just Christmas kind of thing. She was a fundamentalist, and literal lens was how she viewed her entire world through the Bible. The Bible was her truth. Her reality was structured by God, Jesus, angels, and demons. And this is critical because when something impossible happens to her, we watch as there's not really a sci-fi framework to put it in, but then the only thing she really has to reference are angelic and demonic. And the way this thing seems to warp to that belief is fascinating. So now that brings us finally to the actual event. January 25th, 1967, on a cold, normal winter evening, but the house is already under a great deal of stress. Betty's husband, James Andreasson, is not home. He had been in a head-on car collision 2 days before Christmas.
Jesus.
And he was severely injured and had been in intensive care at the hospital for weeks. So on this night, Betty is effectively just a single mother of 7 trying to hold her life together. And because of this, she has help. Her parents, Wino Aho and Eva Aho, are visiting the house to lend a hand.
Fucking
and this
Wino, dude. I can't.
I love the name, dude. I really love the name. So this is the full cast of characters at the house at this time. Betty, her 7 kids, her father, and her mother. 11 people in a small farmhouse. And as far as she describes it, it's just a scene of like domestic routine. It's about 6:30 p.m. Betty is in the kitchen finishing up chores. In the adjacent living room, the younger kids are dressed for bed and are watching Bozo the Clown on TV.
The Bozo?
The fucking Bozo
Times
the
were
Clown.
different, man.
They certainly were. Does Gen Z know and below and Gen Alpha know who Bozo the Clown
Absolutely
is?
no
It's
way in
funny.
hell.
It's funny to think that kid shows just had like an audience, like Johnny Carson. Like,
Yeah.
that's really funny. Like, I know that there's still shows that have kids in the audience, but it's not the same vibe as it used to be, where it was like bleachers with kids. Like, I don't know. There's something real funny
if
about
you
that.
Because they were still figuring it out. Because this is
Yeah.
like a time where kids got to be kids for the first time ever, really.
Just something super funny
Yeah,
about
if
that.
you
to me.
don't know who Bozo the Clown is, literally Krusty the Clown minus the attitude.
No, Bozo
Yeah.
dubbed over. You remember that?
That was the thing, yeah. But
That's
like, it's that
Bozo
vibe.
dubbed
Whenever you
over,
see
brought it
Bart
back.
show up to see Krusty,
Yeah.
it looked the exact same, except it was like in black and white and then in color, and then it became a little weird.
A little bit like too much color, actually. I would
Yeah,
say.
a little creepy. And then
I never was super into him, so I don't know, like,
did
the
not
lore
into
about
Bozo
creepy
end in the
guy.
80s, I think?
I think before that. I think he had to end before that, but long time he lasted. The Bozo Clown.
Yeah,
scary,
I mean, the
scary,
reference
scary
lasted a long
clown.
time. I knew who he is. I've seen, like, clips over the years.
I don't like clowns. This one's particularly
No, I hate
scary.
clowns.
First appearance was 1946 in music and 1949 on TV. Yikes.
Crazy.
He had an
That's
animated series
crazy.
in the late 50s and 60s. He was all over the place. Hilariously, David Arquette owns the rights to Bozo the Clown.
Dude,
Good for you, David.
he should be doing something with that. He should have a podcast.
Bozo was on TV in the 60s. When did Bozo end?
When did
was
Bozo
the
end?
last?
The last
Bozo.
Bozo. Terminator. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The last Bozo.
Okay, he ended in 84, but it was in syndication until 94.
Jesus.
That's
So
a long
84.
That's why I like he was around for the 90s and I was the 94. I mean, so I was like 8 or 9 when he finally went off the air completely.
Yeah.
That's
Crazy.
crazy.
Well, back to the aliens. The kids are there. The younger kids just for bed are watching Bozo the Clown on TV,
Yikes.
and her mother, Eva, is sitting with 3-year-old Cindy on her lap. Her father, Wino, is in there with them, and this is the baseline. This is, again, just like a domestic night. And it is the last normal moment the Andreasson family will ever have for the rest of their lives. Because at that moment, as Betty is standing in the kitchen, the electric lights begin to flicker and then shortly blink out completely. With the house full of kids and now the house flickering to a dark, it threw the entire house into a confusion. The kids were terrified and start scurrying into the kitchen to find their mom. But almost at the same time as Betty would recall under hypnosis, a new light suddenly appears. And Jesse, this is a, Midwestern woman, 30-year-old woman. And I want you to read her own description this is from her in hypnosis, her own description of what's going on. What
Can I
happens
just
in this
stress to
moment.
everyone that what he means by that is Jesse do a voice is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing like that was in a set that was like do a goof. All right.
No,
okay.
yeah, you've done, because I think you did Betty Hill in that same Midwestern tone.
He just
so,
conflates them together, you know? It's Betty Hill
really,
again.
I don't, yeah. You haven't come to me for skill, just
No.
truly bad voices.
It's just good casting. Just plain old good casting.
There was by the window, the small kitchen window, I can see like a light, sort of pink right now. And now the light is getting brighter. It's reddish orange and it's pulsating. I curveball. You didn't know what I was doing there.
No, I didn't know. No, it's not the last time you're going to be her, so hang tight. So this weird pulsating reddish orange light is now flooding into the kitchen. The house is still dead silent, and Betty described it as if the whole house had a vacuum over it, like stillness all around, which is very common for not necessarily always abduction scenarios, but close encounters when UFOs get close. Everybody says this weird kind of vacuum of silence, like the bugs stop making noise, the birds go silent, it just comes deadly silent. And she tries to calm her kids down, telling them to, quote, be quiet, whatever it will go away. And one of the more interesting things to note about Betty is like, she is oddly calm about this the entire time. Like the kids are freaking out, everybody's freaking out, and other people and other stories, like even Betty and Barney Hill freak out. But Betty Andreasson, through the whole thing, is bizarrely just like vibing out with whatever the fuck is happening. So she's telling the kids to calm down. And as Betty is herding her scared kids back to the living room, her father, Wino, hurries into the kitchen to see what's going on because he obviously sees the light. He goes to the pantry window, which looks out into the backyard, and he stares out in complete disbelief. What he saw is best described in his own signed witness statement, which, Alex, I'm going to have you read. This is his own words. Like I said, his own witness statement words that he wrote.
These creatures that I saw through the window of Betty's house were just like the Halloween freaks. I thought they had put on a funny kind of headdress imitating a moon man. It was funny the way they jumped out one after the other, just like grasshoppers.
So he sees beings coming out of this light that is in the backyard. Wino sees these 5 beings in total hopping across his backyard, like he said, like grasshoppers, just one after the other. And he said that when they saw him, yeah, it's a weird description. It doesn't make any sense. Grasshoppers. He said that when they saw him looking at them, they stopped. And then quoting him again, quote, "The one in front looked at me and I felt kind of queer. That's all I knew." And he said that's the last thing that's the last thing he consciously remembers of this whole thing. The feeling, quote unquote, queer as the lead creature stared back at him and seemed to notice him, because at that moment they were no longer outside. Now, this is the core of the aliens. The aliens were no longer outside.
Right. I was like, huh?
Under hypnosis, Betty described this moment as to what happened next, because they kind of come through solid objects. She's under hypnosis during this whole thing.
She can walk straight through walls, as if walls were of no import to these ethereal beings.
They came in like follow the leader. They're starting to come through the door now, right through the wood, one right after the other. It's amazing coming through. I stood back a little. Was it real? And they're coming one after another. Now they're all inside.
Yeah, they phased through, I guess, just the wooden door. They were just like right through. After they one and after flipped into existence, essentially, in her kitchen, Betty was just standing there in total shock, immediately tried to rationalize what she was seeing. So in her devout Christian mind, which really had no grasp for what an alien was, it went to one place, and she said this under hypnosis, Jesse. Sorry, I just decided you were going to be her the whole time.
You became her, dude.
I'm thinking they must be angels, because Jesus was able to walk through doors and walls and walk on water. Must be angels. And scriptures keep coming into my mind where it says, entertain the stranger, for it may be angels unaware. Which, by the way, this is a real ass Christian. Just heads up.
That's what I'm saying.
Take that last bit there. That's real ass Christianity.
Little Proverbs, yeah.
Yeah. So, So, are you about to tell me she's like, screw it, welcome to my home? Because that's awesome, by the way.
That is exactly what she does.
Would you like some pie, Mr. Alien?
Dude, we're gonna get there. Where she does to make them food. Under hypnosis, though, both Betty and her 11-year-old daughter Becky gave incredibly detailed, consistent descriptions of these beings.
Hell yeah.
Separately.
Separately. 4 of them were small, about 3 to 4 feet tall, but the 5th one, the leader, was taller, maybe around 5 feet. Now, we just went over this in the live show, boys, but there are the taller, white-ish, but still alien gray-esque looking beings that are sometimes seen with the more stereotypical grays. She describes them as having gray skins, large, outsized, pear-shaped heads. They had no visible hair, no nose, but for 2 small holes and no visible ears. Their mouths were just, quote, fixed scar-like slits that didn't move, and they wore shiny, dark blue form-fitting uniforms with high boots and gloves. On the left sleeve of each uniform was an emblem, she said, that looked like a bird with outstretched wings. But the defining features, the ones that terrified the family, were their hands and their eyes. Their hands were 3-digited and gloved, and Betty's daughter, Becky, described them as clay hands with 3 thick fingers and no nails.
I'm thinking GTA 5 or like GTA 3 vibes on that, if you're describing it like that, if you know what I mean. You know, they have those like fleshy Lego hands in that game.
Yeah. No, that's not a bad visual. Jesse, rather, this is Alex, this is Becky's description. You're an 11-year-old girl.
Oh, they look like marbles. It had big eyes. The only thing I could see really good was the big eyes, like marbles. They look scary.
Right. The big eyes.
Great
no,
job.
I get it.
That was a kid from Silent Hill. That was what the inspiration was there.
Betty's description was even more specific. Again, she's the one that said large wraparound cat-like eyes. She said they were huge, slanted, and had no pupils. And these 5 things are standing in the room. And Betty looks around at her family, and this is when she realizes the kind of horror of the situation, because her father, Wino, who had been yelling, was now standing in the pantry in what she describes as suspended animation out of her sight. Her mother, Eva, and all 7 of her children were also frozen looking. Betty described it like this, Jesse. It's just one little sentence. She described it like that.
They followed me into the living room, and I looked and I saw all my family as if time had stopped for them. And I wondered, what happened?
Her 11-year-old daughter, Becky, would later recall the same moment. She said, quote, "I'm not afraid of him because there's a feeling that he's not going to hurt me. He scares me just by the way he looks, but I can't do anything, can't move." And Betty is the only one they left unfrozen for some reason. So she's alone now, kind of like in a way, awake and standing in her living room, surrounded by her frozen family and these 5 beings. And the leader, the taller one, then steps toward her. And this is the first contact. It's not like a message, but it's weird. It's a telepathic communication. And Betty describes it like it's just super short. She describes it like this, quote, "It seemed like an oral sound, but I think it was a transformation of thought. The leader called me Betty. And in this moment of kind of weird terror, Betty, still clinging to her angels theory, misinterprets the entire situation. The leader, who she said identified himself with the name Quasga. This is the leader of the alien's name, and I'm going to show you how it's spelled. Quasga.
That is a Star Wars name from 2003.
Yes.
Yeah. He stretched out his hand, and Betty, in her state of shock, misconceived a mental impression, and she asked, "Do you want something to eat?" And the beings just nodded. So Betty,
I'm actually quite peckish. Yes, thank you.
In the most kind of surreal moment of domesticity I ever, went to the kitchen, got some food from her refrigerator, and she said, quote, "I started to cook them some meat." So yes, Jesse, she just said kind of, "Welcome to the home.
I love her.
Let me cook you a meal." She's standing at her stove, cooking for these aliens while her family is just in stasis in the other room. And again, this is where I'm like,
stasis, bro.
Every other being, every other abduction scenario, usually they're fighting. She's just like, again, and I think it's because it's this weird religious thing she sees it as. In her mind, it can be none other than divine interaction. And what is she going to do? Is she going to turn away from God? And it reminds me of how Chris Bledsoe, which we'll talk about his story one day, is similar, where he is the most boring man in the world and didn't seem to react in fear to the aliens. And he has a very religious view on them as well, but more Christ consciousness rather than like more traditional religious views. It's very, very weird. Anyway, the being stared at her while she was cooking, and then she got another telepathic head voice message. And this is what she said to them, Jesse, in his head. This is a simple sentence, but this is what she said they said to her about the food she was cooking.
We cannot eat food unless it is burned.
So
okay.
Betty
All right, then.
She started to burn the meat, and the aliens, in a very unangelic-like moment, stepped back, astonished over the smoke that was coming up. Apparently, smoke started coming up, and they're like, whoa, and all stepped away from like...
Why are they the fucking aliens from Toy Story, dude? Whoa.
I don't know.
Do they have mouths? Are they like...
Yes, they said she had like little slits for mouths. No lips, just like a slit, but they never talk. It's all...
Right, they came from Pizza Planet.
Yeah,
yep.
Taking him to diner and being like, just well done. And then the chef in the back's like, ruining it. Just fucking ruining it.
Once the smoke happened and she started burning it, this is the message she got from the aliens. Jesse?
That's not, I guess I got to read in their voice, but that's not our kind of food. Our food is tried by fire. Knowledge tried by fire. Do you have any food like that? I would have been, if this was today, I would have been like, you, me, flaming hot Funyuns. Let's go.
Yeah, we got Tabasco, y'all.
Tried by fire. Yeah, she just Tabasco's it up.
I'd be like, have you ever had spicy buffalo wings? My friend, let's go.
Have you ever had ass-kicking chili?
Her religious mind hearing knowledge tried by fire. This, of course, clicks with Betty's religious mind, and she replies, yes, I think I have some of that. It's in there. So she walks into the living room.
Do not tell me she gave them like wafers and grape juice.
No, knowledge tried by fire. What do you think she's going to get? So she goes in the living room, walks by her stasis family, and picks up the Bible from the end table. She turns and passes the Bible to their leader, Quasga. And in return,
they don't eat food, they eat knowledge, but he wants that good knowledge, is what you're saying.
He burns a book and sucks it up?
Yeah, so in return, she hands Quasga the Bible, and he passes her a, quote, thin little blue book in exchange. And what Quasga does next with the Bible is one of the strangest details. He holds it in his 3-fingered hand, waves his other hand over it, and, quote, other Bibles appeared, thicker than the original.
What? Wait, is this like some kind of
comment? What did he?
Yes, he created thicker copies.
What does that mean?
It's like a commentary on religion, or
he had the Bible, and with his 3 fingers, they're like, okay.
But he made,
and then
like,
a bunch of other Bibles were made. They were bigger. Each one was thicker than the Bible that she handed him.
What am I supposed to believe is inside the Bible? What's the extra content?
I don't know.
Is it just that he recreated it, but he made the letters bigger, so he needed more pages?
Like for older aliens.
Yeah, like he was like, like he was adding calories to it.
Yeah.
He added butter to the Bible.
Well, I don't know why. I don't know what was in it, because apparently what happened next was he took the duplicates and passed them around to the other Greys that were there, the 4 other Greys.
And they ate them.
And no, they flipped it and they opened it and flipped it page by page. And apparently each page was pure luminous white.
Like a
bright white.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. What? While they were exactly. And while they were doing this, Betty starts to look in the little blue book that she had been given. And at this exact moment, her daughter Becky suddenly regained consciousness. Like she came out of stasis. She had blacked out in her state. And the next thing she knew, she was awake again, but paralyzed, watching her mother. Quote, this is a quote from Becky Alex, the young girl.
I woke up and they were in the room. Mom was talking to them and there was a book already in his hand.
And Becky, now awake but frozen, is now kind of a quiet witness to what's happening. This is how she sees what happens in the living room and what happens here, because she's in stasis but regained consciousness for some reason. And as Betty is standing there holding the strange blue book, she asks the beings straight up, "Are you God?" And they replied, "Would you follow us?" And so she panics in that moment a little bit about her kids, and her response was, "What about my children, my parents?" And this is what she said in hypnosis about that, Jesse. You read that quote.
"They promised me they wouldn't hurt them, that they would be all right. They said, 'See, they're just resting there.' They said, 'They're all right. Would you follow us?'" Real talk. If this was real and happened to me, and an alien said, "Would you follow us?" in a heartbeat, I'd ditch everything. I'd be like, "Let's go, bros. Let's go." I will sell out everyone. It's time for I'd be like, "Let's go."
Would you follow us? You're like Benny from the Mummy, dude.
Oh my God. Are you kidding me? I'd have
straight up Benny,
everything around my neck. When you guys try to stop me, I'd be like, "Bossy,
I would never try to stop you. I would be cheering for you. I'd be so excited for you.
Look who's on the wrong side of the freeway.
I don't get that reference. So Betty, in her own words after that, said a small prayer saying, "Oh Lord, show me what I'm supposed to do." But the beings just repeated, "We will not harm you. Would you follow us?" And Betty, feeling she had no other choice, replied, "All right." And so Quasgod tells her to stand.
Do it.
All right. Yes.
Quasgod tells her to stand directly in back of me, and she gets in line and immediately feels a bizarre swooping sensation, like suction, she describes. She was in their line following the leader, and as she went out the door, she went with him, passing right through the same things, the wood, the doors that they were. She was phasing through the solid walls of her own home while she left.
Okay.
She then described it as
they don't even understand the concept of a door. Like, what's the point?
If they
were like, "Do you want to open it?" No, screw it. Just go in. Like, okay.
If we're to take them as an extra, if they're operating on an extra dimensional way or a level of consciousness way, physical matter is probably meaningless. Like, it's something they don't even necessarily give a shit about. But the other thing she said is she actually wasn't walking. She was floating several inches above the ground while she was being phased through. She said her whole body felt strange and weightless, very funny. And when she got outside, she was stunned. The neighborhood, she said, was gone. This is what I'm saying. Like, she leaves the walls of her home and she's not in what she knows as her own reality. She said she couldn't see any other houses. And there was a quote, haze, all haze, like a mist was all around. So you weren't necessarily wrong about the Silent Hill child, Alex. Later weather records for that night did in fact indicate there was heavy mist in the area when looking that up. And in her backyard, she saw the ship that they had arrived on. It was a quote, oval object with a raised central portion, and it was resting on legs or struts. She couldn't quite tell which were adjusted to the incline of the hill behind her house. She was awestruck and terrified simultaneously, and Quasgod seemed to sense this. And to reassure her, he did something kind of bizarre. And so, Jesse, this is what Betty says in her hypnosis is what Quasgod did to calm her down.
Mm-hmm. He says, "See, you can trust me. Look over at the ship." And he made the bottom like glass. I could see through it.
And for whatever reason, that was enough to calm her down. Like, that was like, he's like,
that would scare the shit out of me. That would fucking fuck me up. I can't do that on a fucking glass bottom boat. I can't do that on the fucking Sears Tower. That scared the shit. My legs didn't work when I went up there.
The bottom of the craft just turned transparent, and on the inside, she describes what she saw as glass balls on the bottom, cut glass like that thing on the side with that gray matter and water, whatever that means. I don't know what she means by that. Quasgod then turned the ship back so that it was not glass, but like a silver solid gold again. And he faced the craft and raised his left hand, and instantaneously an opening then appeared at the bottom of the craft. They lined up again, and Betty swoops right up there. There's 3 stairs, and as soon as he goes up, she's swooped up as the others are following. Swooped. When she says swooped, she means floating. She entered a small, quote, half bubble or quarter of a bubble room, and the door closed automatically behind them. And again, she felt strange, weightless, and what she considered an icky feeling. Jesse, another quote. You're going to do a lot of reading today, Jesse.
Great. My hands and my legs feel like they're asleep or something. Oh, my feet are pins and needles or something. Even my arms and my hands.
Or something.
While she's standing there feeling like her limbs are asleep, Quasga is talking to the other beings. Then about 2 or 3 of them are leaving the room. The door whooshed open, and then they go inside, and then it's closed again. Quasga explained they were going to, quote, make himself ready, and that the other 2 would, quote, please bring me to the upper room. The remaining 2 beings, one in front, one in back, led her to another, what she called a whoosh door that opened. It just sounds like Star Trek to me, just a whoosh of the door sliding open. And inside were stairs, but not normal stairs. She said, they seem like they are floating up. My waist feels so heavy there. We are going up those stairs. And at the top, another door disappears down, and they were no longer in the entry bubble. They were now inside the main craft. And she was immediately brought to what she called the examination room. They're led up the floating stairs, and a door disappears down into the floor, like it sinks into the floor. And Betty finds herself, along with her 2 silent escorts, entering a large, circular, brightly lit room. This is the examination room, and the light is weird in here, she says. It's not coming from a bulb or a fixture. Betty said it comes from all over the place. The walls are dome-shaped, rounded, and perfectly smooth. No welded seams, and in the room she sees an, quote, elongated desk or table that immediately reminded her of an operating table, and she got nervous. At this point, Quasga enters the room, but he's in a different suit and with some other beings. The beings in this room are wearing shiny white silver clothes. Their skin even seemed whiter than the grays she had met in her home, though Betty figured that was just because the intense shadowless light that was being beamed in, maybe it made them look a little paler than they were. They tell her to get on the table, and Betty, a little terrified, protests, saying, no, I won't go up there. But she really didn't have a choice. Jesse, this is what she described how getting on the table was for her.
No, it seemed like I floated up there somehow. I was just swept off my feet and laid there.
So she said no, there was no choice. They just levitated her up onto the bed. And laid her flat on the cold block. Now, she's not strapped down, but as she later recalls, she was still feeling like she was being held down somehow. She said they somehow had her hands and legs pushed down, but again, she wasn't fully paralyzed, just being held down by a force. Quasga then comes over to her and says, we are just going to measure you for light. He takes an instrument that she describes as like a fan and with tulips at the end, and waves it over her body. After a moment, he delivers a verdict. He tells her, quote, you have not understood the word that you have. You've misunderstood some places. There are spots there from it. You are not completely filled with the light. Betty doesn't know what that means, but she thinks it might be questioning her faith. So she says, I believe I'm filled with the light. I believe that I'm filled with the light. And Quasga simply replies, but we have to, because there are some spots there. We will have to measure you physically. And this is where like a more traditional abduction scenario kind of happens. As she's reliving this under hypnosis, this is what it was. Jesse, all you.
Yes, sir. I feel shaky. He's taken an instrument and wow. Heavy, panted breathing. Why did you have to put that up my nose? He's putting the thing in my nose and it's going up and it's breaking through something. I don't like it. Oh, I can't move. It's hurting.
Thank you very much. Great job. It was what he was sticking up his nose was a long silver bendable needle, and they stuck one up of her nose and up into her head. Apparently,
bendable needle.
Yeah, that's just how she described it. She said it was a penetrating pushing, feeling in her left nostril, and just as the pain becomes unbearable, Quasga eased Betty's pain by placing his hand on her forehead and on the top of her head, and her body simply relaxed, which is a very common description of people who are anxious, like if they're getting abducted and they like usually like touch their forehead and said, "Don't worry," and they chill. They then pull the needle out, and she says it feels funny when they do. And she sees some kind of ball on the end of it, like a little thing on the end of the needle. And later in the debriefing, she confirms that
Why
this
does that
little
sound
ball,
familiar to me?
right, like a little thing that's like popped out of the nose as a ball at the end. She confirms that later in the debriefing, she confirmed this, quote, little ball with little prickly things on it, and was not there when they put the needle in. They had removed something, it sounded like, from her head or whatever it was.
What?
Yeah, very weird. But
Like,
they apparently
that was already
in
they're
there. The
harvesting
needle went
it?
up without it. It penetrated something, grabbed it, and pulled it out. Whatever the ball was.
Interesting.
But they also weren't done. The beings start, quote, talking about something over there, and then they come back to, like, they leave and then come back, and they tell her, quote, they have to measure me for procreation. And then Benny kind of screams, I don't want any more tests. Get this thing out of me. They ignore her, though, and they take that needle again with a tube like on the end. And, quote, this is what happens next. But yeah, they have to measure her for procreation.
And he's opening up that shirt and he's going to put that in my navel. I don't like this. I can feel them moving that thing around in my stomach. Feeling things with that needle. Oh boy. Do the aliens not know how pregnancy works?
I don't know. Like
Or when
Great
she's saying
question.
descriptors of stomach, she means lower torso.
I'm assuming. Well, they went in through her navel. Like they shoved the thing into her navel. But
I get it. So I assume she's referring to like lower torso.
yeah,
but like
that'd be my guess.
it's always There just seems like
Yeah,
a much
it's
easier
weird.
way to get in there.
And as they're doing this, apparently, they're talking to each other, and she senses they're confused. They're saying, quote, something about something missing parts or something. And the investigators and Betty later conclude that this was because she had a hysterectomy 2 years prior to this abduction after the birth of her last child.
Oh.
So, like, they think that may have been, they were referencing, like, she couldn't have kids anymore. And these all-knowing beings were just apparently surprised to find the parts missing. This is, in my mind, this is hinting at she's been abducted by them before and just doesn't remember. Like, this is something they've checked and done before. Again, the pain, she said, is intense. And again, Quasga lays his hand on her head to calm her and seems almost sympathetic to him. She recalled him saying to her, I am very sorry. It just needed to be done. And one last test, Betty sees, quote, something up in the center of the ceiling coming down. It's like a big eye of some kind, like a lens, and it's moving down, all the way down by my stomach. And they are bringing it real close. She gets panicked, but this one, she says, doesn't hurt. The eye lens just scans her and then retracts, which reminds me of that movie that I saw as a child with that boy with the alien, but the big eye, it's like an eyeball, but he's like going on a starship ride with him. It's from the 80s.
Flight of the Navigator. Flight of the
Yes,
Navigator.
thank you. Flight of the Navigator. That's like what my
Blockbuster
mind
video.
thinks of.
7.5 tours.
Yeah, that. Have you seen Flight of the Navigator, Jesse?
I have.
Okay,
I
cool,
just didn't
cool.
know what you were referring to, and I was waiting for the big reveal of like some movie called like Blimblow. Like,
No,
right.
real-
You know, the movie that no
I
one
love
saw,
that
but for
movie.
some reason you did.
I love
Yeah.
Blimblow.
This ended the end of the physical exam. Quasga waves his hand over her arms and legs, and the paralyzed pins and needle feeling starts to go away. And then in her words, quote, involuntarily, her body snapped to a sitting position and began to float above the table. She exclaimed, nobody's touching me. And, quote, they are beside me, but seems like I'm being carried. She is floated off the table, brought to a standing position, and placed back in line between her two escorts. They glide her out of the examination room, and the door flashes open and closed behind them, quote unquote, and she is floated out of the examination room. The door, then as they move down, they glide through and back into a previous room, the one with the strange, like half quarter dome walls. But she notices when she comes through again, maybe she's paying more attention or whatever, but she sees leaf motifs and the pyramid shaped what she calls dressing room.
Like art, but that's like leaves.
Yeah, that's how it came off to me too. She then is brought to the area, back to that little pyramid on its side, quote unquote, and her escorts gesture for her to go inside and get dressed. That's why she calls it the changing room. The room is what she says it's kind of dim. She steps up into it, and there are her clothes lying on the floor, right where they told her they would be. There's a white seamless garment that she had been wearing just when she did the examination, and now they're having her change out of it. And her modesty is apparent even kind of in the hypnosis transcript, because she recalled, quote, I wondered if they've got something looking in here. Like, she's wondering if they're spying on her getting naked and dressed. She's like curious.
I fucking would be too if they were doing all this shit.
Dude, yeah, I guess that's fair. She said, quote, around me, she was wondering if they were looking in there around me while I took off the rest of my under things that I slipped into her own clothes. Dressed, she bangs on the side of the walls and yells, I'm ready. And the door then whooshes open. The two beings are just waiting there, and they seemed a little concerned. And one, quote, kept looking back, checking to see if she was getting in line where she was supposed to. She falls into her now familiar position between the two of them, and they start gliding along through the ship again. It seems like she's not moving around on her own free will, obviously. She's kind of in this weird levitating, like, escort. And they come to another seamless wall where a door appears and opens, and they enter, quote, like an underground corridor, all hollow, into another opening where it is light. And it's like a track we're going on. Right? This is like she could describe it as a black track. She described it as being narrow, maybe only 9 inches wide, and looking like plastic. She's not walking on it. She's skimming just above it. And during this, she feels an immense pressure in her head. She says, quote, my head feels so heavy. It feels so heavy, I can hardly hold it up. And they glide along this narrow black track through the hollow corridor and emerge into that new, brightly lit and very strange room. She described it as being, quote, like a half cylinder or a Quonset hut. And down each side of the room are four glass-like chairs, clear, maybe plastic, which gives me Men in Black-esque weird feelings.
Yes, like Pier 1 imports level vibes.
Yes, it really does. Her two escorts glide her over to one of these chairs and telepathically tell her, would you please be seated? She's terrified, and she asks what they're going to do to her. And they just repeat, please be seated. We will not harm you. So fucking sits down, still assuming this is angelic or something. And she said immediately a transparent, something transparent came undown, and to make sure it came down around her. Something transparent came down around her and sealed her inside where she sat. I miswrote a word. I'm like, what am I trying to say there? So she sat down, she got sealed into the seat, and something started falling around her. And the effect, she said, was horrifying. Here's what she said she felt like, Jesse, when she got immediately sealed in.
I hope I can breathe in here. I feel I'm going to be knocked out from it. It feels like they are putting something cold in there. Oh, it feels like it is getting colder. It feels cold.
It's like Tennessee Williams.
Feels like moisture is even being drawn from me, and it's cold. The moisture is coming right out of me.
The cold makes her dry up. She's trapped in this encasing chair, freezing cold, feeling the moisture being sapped from her body. And the investigators in the book speculate that this maybe was some kind of cryogenic freezing process, but Betty just knew it was not. She was uncomfortable and it was scaring her. And she's in this cold chair for what, quote, seemed like a long time. Finally, the enclosure opens up. The beings come for her again, but they don't let her just get up. She's once again floated out of this thing. She describes it as, quote, I'm sort of in a sitting position, but I'm lifting up, and they're directing me over to the other side where there's chairs similar to this. After they float her in a sitting position across the room to a different chair, and then
she's sitting on nothing, but she's floating in a sitting position.
Yeah, it's like a sitting position, and they're just like hovering her in like a hold person from D&D terms. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. This one is different, though. This is what she calls the, quote, immersion chair. The beings tell her she is to, quote, you are to be immersed in liquid. She became.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
You
Okay.
are to be immersed in liquid.
She immediately became hysterical, and she said, "I'll drown in that." And they simply said, "No, you will."
How
you
else
won't
will we find out you are a witch, madam?
She said. They replied to them, "No, you will not drown. We've provided something for you. It
We
is
have
a tube."
magic air water that you will not die
drown.
in.
We have provided something for you. It is a
Special.
tube.
It is a tube?
It is a tube, and then actually it is 3 tubes.
It is a
What?
snorkel, you dumbass. Have you ever heard of it?
A translucent canopy enshrouded her, and she's quote, self-sealing tubes were connected to her mouth and nose. So she had 3 tubes, one that went into her mouth and sealed, and one for each nostril and sealed up to her like nose. She could feel air coming through them, quote, just as if I was living underwater. And then as she's sealed in, she sees, quote, some gray liquid pour down on my head and into that place.
I picture her talking like, what are you doing?
The enclosure slowly fills up, but it does fill up completely. And as it does, the terror immediately vanishes from her. And Jessie, this is what she said it felt like.
Oh, it's soothing. It's relaxing. Oh, feels good.
Strangely, that's exactly what it says.
Good. Oh, it feels so good.
Hate that.
It's like a whirlpool
Hate that.
vibrating around.
I don't.
That's what it says.
That's what she said.
That's
but
what
I
I'm
don't know
saying.
if
I'm not making this.
Wow.
Isn't Jesse's interpretation. This is what it says.
No, the O's are like somewhat distressed O's, like, it's
No,
it's
you're not
soft,
saying,
relaxing.
I'm distressed. But and then everything you say is it feels good, it feels soothing, it feels relaxing.
He's right. He's right.
That's fair. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right.
This woman is in it.
Yeah. Well, she's floating in this warm, vibrating gray liquid. And as she's in this state of total relaxation, they call to her again. This is all psychic in her mind. And they tell her they are, quote, going to give me something to drink and for me to swallow it when it does.
When she's underwater?
Remember, she's got a tube in her mouth.
Oh, so
and
it's
2
coming-
tubes
it's
in her
coming
mouth
down the
and
tube.
her nose.
Oh.
And suddenly a thick syrup begins
Oh.
to seep its way into her mouth through
Jeez.
the tube.
I would pass away if this occurred. I want you to know that, like, I'm a brave guy. Underwater with a tube in my mouth, under liquid that's not water with a tube in my mouth with syrup coming in my fucking mouth.
I would be thrashing under that water.
Yeah, I would be.
Well,
I would
here's-
die.
Dude, Jesse, this is how she felt about it.
Oh boy. God damn it. It tastes good. Oh, this feels good. Oh, so relaxing. And it tastes good. It was sweet and thick, sort of like a cough syrup.
Oh. Which I love to just.
I drink it all
I
the
just
time.
love to chug down dram after dram.
I must stress, I've been on the internet long enough to know this is like the plot of a hentai.
Yeah, this is starting to get porny.
This is getting weird.
This could turn real fucking quick. This is like a weird, like, fucking alien gooey Xanax. it makes her calm
An
down.
alien gooey Xanax. Oh
Yeah.
my god! All right,
Yeah.
all right. I've bounced back. We're back. Okay.
But in the book, the investigators speculate that this may have been the moment that she is being put into what they theorize may have been a high G acceleration chamber of some kind. Because what's happening as she's in this, they're taking her on a little tour of the stars.
What?
She's being, like they said, will you come with us? She said, yes. She's being taken around.
While she's chugging this shit.
Yeah. And I suppose they think that the liquid was to protect her body from the stresses of interstellar travel because she was about to go for a fucking ride. Because as she's floating in this tank, she still sees her 2 escorts and they're different. They're wearing, quote, something dark over their faces, both of them, like a black hood. They had put on some kind of protective gear, which she and her tank apparently didn't need. And this is why they speculate. Is something going on the ship? Is the ship moving where they need protective gear too? And she's
Why
like
wouldn't
a
she
human?
need the gear?
Because she's human. She's not built as
She's
their
got
same physiology.
Sunglass eyeballs or some shit.
Maybe. So the way yeah, I don't know why it just doesn't work for her. So she gets this floating to get to float in this warm, soothing, vibrating gray goo with a delicious thick goo being piped down her throat that makes her feel good.
Don't like it. So nasty.
Now, eventually, though, she feels the vibration stop and the liquid starts to drain. And as the fluid recedes,
what do you mean? From the tank?
Yeah, the gray. Remember, she's in.
I mean, there's a lot of liquids here, and one was
That's
entered
true.
into her body, and you should have been specific.
Sorry, the one that's being filled in, like she's being fed, that stops. She stops being fed. Doesn't get sucked out, but she stops being fed it. And then the goo she's floating in this like tank slowly recedes.
Understood. Gotcha. I thought they were trying to remove the goo they put in her from her body. I was like, how? What? All right, no, we're good. Okay. All right.
As the fluid recedes, she says that, quote, the heaviness is coming back. My hands and my arms and my legs and my feet feel heavy again. As it opens up, the beings still wearing their black hoods are there, and they remove the breathing tubes and the one in her nose is in her mouth. And Betty is soaking wet. Her clothes are clinging to her, and she asks them if she can't change, but they just tell her to follow. They're like, follow. And then she is put in a floating position and pulled along with the two beings. They glide back out of the half-cylinder room and back onto the black track. And this time they go into the opposite direction. She's floating between these two figures. That's how she just calls them hooded, headless figures at this point. That's how she describes them when she's in hypnosis talking about this point. We don't really know why headless made its way into it. The tunnel they enter is completely dark, and their hoods maybe blended them in with the tunnel that could have made it look like she had no head. And this tunnel isn't a clean metallic tube either. She said it was, quote, chipped like a charcoal tunnel. As they glide along, their glowing suits illuminate. A darker hole opening in the other end of the tunnels is branching off into the darkness. So she's saying as she's going down, there's little branching paths that lead to darker holes but they're ignoring. They're continuing down this track. All this time, she said her head feels heavy, and she's at this point just assuming she is just a passenger to whatever the fuck is happening. The track begins to slant upward, and ahead she sees a, quote, shiny mirror-like barrier. She braces for impact because they're going right up to it, except they just, like they did the walls of her home, go right through it. Quote, we are going through it, through that mirror. And in an instant, she is plunged into a brand new world. The atmosphere in the sky is a, quote, vibrating red color. It vibrated throughout the entire air. Everything is bathed in this oppressive red shimmer, apparently. The being suits now, quote, looked red. The black track stretched on ahead, though. They're like on this track that's going through this world and passing between, quote, square buildings with openings, which she said looked like, quote, stucco or cement. There's no vegetable or vegetation life, just land and buildings. And then she sees them. She gasped in horror at creatures, quote, crawling on the buildings. And they were everywhere. Jesse, this is her describing what she sees in this moment.
I would love to know. And how many times did she say, oh, in this?
Oh, God, dude, countless. I can't tell you. I don't know.
Great. Yeah, no, I'm excited.
I'm just saying all through the episode. And this one, she just says it like once.
Oh, my God. All right. And these things got two eyeballs, and there are loads of them. Oh, they're scary. And they've skinny arms and legs and kind of full body, and their eyes can move every which way, and they can climb just like monkeys. They're all over the place.
And that's what these things are climbing all over these buildings, these square buildings in this endless vibrating red atmospheric world. Like, to me, they come off as almost lemur-like or monkey-like. But her description gets a little weirder. She says that the creatures themselves were headless. Like the eyeballs were like on their eye stalks, tips of eye stalks that came out of their full bodies.
That came out of their torso?
Yes, like at the tip of their torsos. They had, quote, two large eyes located on the tips of stalks that emanated from the top of their bodies, and the stalks moved independently of each other. And so this is what she's gliding past in this city, I guess, of headless, stalk-eyed monkey creatures who are climbing all over the buildings, bugging their eyes out at her. They're watching as they're going along.
But they're not citizens. They're just like creatures.
Climbing over buildings, but maybe I don't know what this world is, dude. This is where I remember at the beginning, I'm like, if you have a psychedelic experience, it's helpful. Like, I don't really know what the fuck this is. Maybe it's a dead world where like wildlife is like completely taken over. Maybe that's how these things live. I have no idea. But she even cries out and says, who are these? Who are these things? And her hooded escorts just glide on, saying nothing. They're just leading her through a red, vibrating hell world of headless, stalk-eyed animals. And they're gliding on this black track that just seems to go through the sky of this place, which is fucking bizarre. And so as she continues on and on ahead, Betty sees what she described as a circular membrane or a whirling circle that also had mirror-like qualities. She once again braces for impact, but just like before, they just simply pass right through it. And in an instant again, the entire environment changes. Now she's no longer in a weird, vibrating, red, dark world. Now she's emerged into a new place, and this one is green. She described it as a, quote, beautiful green and blue-colored atmosphere, so vast that the sky overhead was just, quote, an endlessness of that green. The light source wasn't a sun. The, quote, green atmosphere was the sky. And as soon as they enter this new green world, her two hooded escorts reach up and take off their black hoods. Something about the red world, they needed their black hoods on. For this one, they don't.
This is just disc 4 of a JRPG at this point.
Yeah. She discovered they're all orphans and they've lived in the same house together forever.
Didn't remember because magic makes
right. She didn't remember.
Yeah.
It's weird. The track is now suspended.
One of the aliens gets
air.
killed by an alien who falls from the sky.
That's actually an alien.
I mean, yeah, this time it is. The track is now suspended way up in the air, quote unquote, with no girders or anything. It was just in the air. And she's gliding high above a new, bizarre, and beautiful fucking, like another alien world. And below her, she sees a sea, but it's not as choppy as it was before, like a clear, calm sea. It's very dark, but it was green, all quote. And in the water, she sees creatures. Go ahead, Jesse, another description of what she's seeing in these waters.
And off to the side, I see, I don't know if they're fish or what. It looks like a combination fish and bird. It seems like it's bait all and foggy, and yet it's light, so I can see it.
So yeah, I don't know what that means, bait all. I don't know what the fuck she meant there. She's seeing fish bird creatures flying around in the misty green world. The vegetarian, Jesus Christ. The vegetation is just as alien. She sees what she says, quote, strange plants, long stems that come out in loops in different colors. And as they're gliding along, they have to stop to, quote, to let something go by. And she couldn't explain it. She says, quote, we were stopping because there's something white there. Something white. I don't know what it is. It's like something like, I can't explain it. The stop, she said, was perfectly smooth. It wasn't like a momentum shift. It's just like they came to a gentle stop. The track seems to be a transport system at this point, she starts thinking about. And as they pass, she says they pass, quote, other elevated tracks crisscross the area. She sees bridges or walkways connecting different areas. Off in the distance on the horizon, she even sees a city. She said it was, quote, definitely a city, but it was so different. Here, Jesse, you can read this little quote. Oops. She's very descriptive, as you can tell.
They look like, a lot like science fiction. Big cities with all these different bridges all around. That's it. That's the description.
Just all
big cities with bridges.
Y'all, there's these bridges.
Yeah, it's like, I guess she's talking about like a futuristic greenlit city in the distance with domes. I don't fucking know. But as they're gliding high in the sky, they pass over a pyramid, of course, but it's a, quote, different kind of pyramid. Right. It's not a simple four-sided Giza pyramid. She described it as having, quote, one big flat side and the other's indent, sort of.
What?
It had a, quote, white edge going down the sides. And at the very top, there was a head. She said it, quote, looked sort of like an Egyptian head, but also feminine yet male. It was a combination of the two. I don't know, maybe what she's talking about there. Like, she's just flying over this bizarre star-shaped pyramid with a giant androgynous Egyptian-style head over the top of it. The track keeps going, taking her away from the pyramid, further away from the city, and she's still just gliding between her two silent gray escorts. And up ahead, she sees where they're finally taking her. She sees a, quote, bright light source. It's, quote, glinting off beautiful crystalline structures like giant prisms.
Giant bridges.
Giant bridges. The track is heading...
Bridges.
I love that show. Whatever happened to that show?
Whatever happened to Nash Bridges?
How many seasons did Nash Bridges get?
Oh,
not enough.
Not a lot. Yeah.
This track is now heading directly for a wall of, quote, clear crystals that have rainbows all in it. She's a little afraid. She starts to realize, like, this shit's weird. Something's happening to her. She starts saying, I want to go back again. Just like I imagine that kind of like panic reaction keeps resurfacing. She says, I want to go back, but they just keep moving and they keep moving through the crystals. And as they pass through the crystal field, she sees what's behind all of it, the source of the light. This is what she sees, Jesse.
I'm seeing something like a large bird. Huge bird. Massive. So thick and veiny that bird was. I called him a massive pecker, is what I called him.
Ew, Benny.
Anyway, back to the actual
Dr.
what's written here.
Edelstein.
It's standing with its wings and the light in back of it.
Like a holy light behind it almost. It's too big to be real, she says. It looked as if it were alive. The track is taking her directly toward this giant living bird-like creature, which is standing in front of a light so dazzling. She says she can barely make out the bird with how powerful the light is. She's standing on the black track, which is now stopped, and now the bird is just before her. It had, she says, a, quote, white head and brown features, and it's just standing there, quote, holding back the light somehow. The light behind it is, quote, real white light, and it's sending out rays bigger and bigger. Then she says it begins to get hot, and the heat becomes unbearable. She begins panting under hypnosis. She says, oh, it's just standing there, and I see gold specks flying around like little tiny gold specks. Oh, it's hot. And the heat becomes so strong it makes her feel weak. She begins to cry out and writhe in the hypnosis chair, reliving the agony. I'll let you do that, Jesse.
Oh, thank you.
No problem.
This has been pretty smooth sailing for me so far.
Yeah. Oh, if you want to be
her. Jesus. I'm hot. Help me.
This is Jesse on Hot
Get ready. It
Ones.
says heavy
I'm going to have to let Jesse, Alex, I'm going to have to let you do the next one.
Oh, I'm so hot. This is what it says, y'all. I'm not.
No, but this is word for word how it was.
Take me out of it. Take me out of it. Oh, it feels like my hands are just vibrating so much, and my feet are just vibrating. Girl, okay.
There's a lot going on, dude. She had a lot of Orgone energy.
Yeah.
Being released in this moment. Too bad there wasn't like that Orgone harvesting box we could throw on top of her. The heat is just like making her vibrate for some reason. And she said it felt like something was piercing her every cell in her body. And it was the worst thing I've ever experienced. And just as suddenly as it began, it stops. Her body relaxes. She says, quote, oh, I'm beginning to cool off a little. Oh, my hands hurt. She opens her eyes more and the dazzling light is now dimmed. The huge bird, however, is gone. In its place is, quote, a fire in front of me. A little fire, something burning.
Little tiny baby fire.
Little fire.
Little tiny fire.
Little fire.
This is Louisiana fire or something?
Little fire.
Maybe a little top bubble fire.
Little Boba Fett fire.
She watches as this fire is burning down, and there are like, quote, the fire's burning down. There are like coals there. It's just glowing right now.
Mm-hmm.
She feels cold now. She begins to shiver, and she watches the coal die down to a reddish color. Quote, it's getting gray mixed with red with it. Soon it's a pile of ashes. And then one of the weirder details of this entire journey, I'll let It's just one sentence, but Alex, your turn to be her.
You got it.
You're
You
Betty
got it.
now. This is what she sees when she sees.
I shouldn't have spoke up.
She looks
Now
down
I'm
at the
a fool.
pile of ash, and this is what she sees in the pile of ash.
Now, looks like a worm. A big, fat worm. It just looks like a big, fat, gray worm. Just lying there.
Great job.
What in the fuck happened to this one?
That's what I'm saying, dude.
I'm telling you, it's so fucking weird. It's so fucking trippy. It's so trippy. Oh man, mid-episode chill. Go check out the Molecule Mindset at youtube.com/@themoleculemindset. That's my psychedelic journey. Trippy journey. But no, that's what this whole thing is, just like fucking strange. It's like Phoenix coded a little bit with the pile of ash or the burn is consumed by a hot fire, but now
Very
a worm
much
is
so.
like,
Yes, definitely.
and I think like in the Bible, I'm pretty sure Phoenix imagery is used early in the Bible anyway, if I remember correctly. It's been a long time.
I mean, I probably like
Yeah.
there's
Probably.
I don't know that anybody's going to say there was like Greek myths like influencing the Bible or whatever, but maybe, or Chinese myths or whatever the Phoenix is.
Looking at this gray worm, the investigators in the room were very confused by what this was. They apparently, according to the author, they kind of passed skeptical looks back and forth at each other. And mind you, I'm cutting out a lot of detail because there's a lot going on in this fucking story. But this is also the second worm she's seen. She saw a giant worm in the red zone, if I remember correctly.
This one's just fat.
But this one's just coming out of the ashes of this. But again, like we just
like
said,
a Goa'uld.
Oh yeah,
A
from
what?
Stargate. Yeah,
dude.
I've
Stargate.
never seen that. Yeah, I haven't seen Stargate.
it's like a yerk. It's basically like a yerk.
Cool. Thank you. I
But
know
kind of
what
like
that is.
it's more like a yerk. But like, do I remember that they're like kind of octopusy?
No, I think in Stargate SG-1, it's established that they're literal worms that go in through the belly button. I think that's what it is.
Yeah,
I hate that.
I just remember they have like mandibles or something. I don't remember.
yeah,
It's been
weird.
too long, you guys.
So yeah, so, like we
Maybe
just
it's
said,
time to
though,
rewatch Stargate SG-1. Maybe that's what
I
I'm
have
going
to
to
watch
take
it for the
away from
first
this.
time. So yeah, like we just said though, this is like classic symbol of the Phoenix imagery. Even just described like quote, just the description of a Phoenix is quite simply quote, out of the ashes, a worm emerged from which the new Phoenix grew. And as Betty is staring at this worm in the ashes, she hears a voice, but it's not Quas-Gaz's voice in her head. This is a new voice, and she says it's, quote, booming, as if many voices blended into one. And it's coming from off to the right, but she can't see anything. The booming voice, though, calls her by name and says, quote, you have seen and you have heard. Do you understand? And Betty was terrified and simply said, no, I don't understand what this is all about. Why am I even here? The voice, of course, says what most people would expect in a story like this. I have chosen you.
Oh boy.
Betty just says, for what have you chosen me? I have chosen you to show the world. And now Betty, who's a devout Christian, standing in front of what she can only process as a divine being, asks the questions she asked the Greys. Are you God? The voice gives her a reply that's kind of a little bit vague, it pushes it off and says, quote, I shall show you as your time goes by. So it's not really like a yes or no. It's very much like, just hang on, wait and see.
He's like, I'll explain later.
But for Betty, that was kind of good enough. Who kind of calmed her a little bit in this situation. She presses the voice a bit, saying, Alex, I'll have you read this.
Are you my Lord Jesus? I would recognize my Lord Jesus. Oh, it says, I love you. God is love, and I love you.
Yep. And so she continues to ask, and the voice replies, doesn't give you a straight answer for that. And then she once again pushes, then why have you brought me here? And it says again, you've chosen you. But then she asks why. And then she says, that which you have faith in, that which you trust. And that was a sentence. Again, it's not really it's not really a definitive sentence or comment. But for Betty, that was kind of the trigger for her because she immediately assumed they were talking about her, like her faith in God, and that must mean that this is God.
Right.
And she says, quote, "It is true. I have faith in God and I have faith in Jesus Christ. Praise God. Praise God." And the voice simply says back, "We know. We know that you do.
You are
That is
chill.
why you have been chosen. I can release you, but you must release yourself of that fear through my son." The second the voice says the words "through my son," Betty has a complete and total emotional breakdown. She says this was, quote, "the catalyst for the most moving religious experience that I have ever witnessed." Her
damn.
face, quote, "literally shone with unrestrained joy as tears streamed down her beaming face."
What is the implication here?
That
Why does this feel
is
like
God.
Dr.
She's talking to God. She's assuming that this is what this is.
This feels like
and that-
Professor Marvel to me. Like
But
when he
it's
shows
very
up in
much
Munchkin
not.
Town and they decide that he's God.
Yeah, like the voice never gives her a straight answer, but it just keeps answering kind of weirdly enough until she interprets it as it's saying, "Yes, I am God and your faith in me is why I've chosen you." When it's simply saying your faith in your own stuff, your ability to believe or whatever is why. And then, but it does mention "through my son," but that could mean the alien. Like,
But that's
it
like,
could
I
mean
feels like he's like picking up on what she's saying and kind of like,
Yes,
connection of
ending?
consciousness.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes.
Yes. And so when she processes this in her mind as this is God, this is what apparently she said under hypnosis. Alex, go ahead.
"Oh, praise God. Praise God. Praise God. Thank you, Lord."
Excellent
I
job.
know. I know I'm not worthy. Thank you for your son. Thank you for your son.
Is this what it's like being on the other side? Because I'm
Bravo.
enjoying this tremendously.
Bravo.
I'm enjoying this a lot.
Fantastic. Fantastic job. Yeah, she enters a state of pure religious ecstasy.
I
She
want to
is
say, I
like-
want you guys to know that the stage directions were in the script.
yes,
True.
because that's where they come from in the book.
Also,
that's what they are in the book.
More increasing, like, just crying, sobbing, uncontrollable sobbing.
Yeah.
Those are good
As if
stage
like
directions.
you just go from one to the next.
Yeah.
She also later describes these weren't like tears of fear, but tears from love. And this entire bizarre multi-stage abduction scenario with everything that happened with her family, the needles, the red fucking world, the worm, and all this shit, all built up to this one single cryptic, deeply symbolic Christian validation for her at the end. And as she's standing there bathing in the light, Quasga, her little gray guide, steps up to her and he tells her, "It is time to go." So Betty is standing in this white spherical chamber, weeping tears of pure ecstatic joy, having just had this profound religious experience. And her gray-skinned guide, Quasga, essentially says, "All right, wrap it up, bitch. We gotta go." And she's turned around, and that heavy vibrating pins and needles feeling returns to her hands, legs, and feet. She's back on the thing, the black track, and her two escorts, not Quasga, are back in position, one in front of the other, one in back, rather. One in front, one in back. Again, Quasga kind of just showed up and was like, "Hey, it is time to go," and then vanished. I don't know, like he just stepped back into the ethereal. They glide back through the crystals, but she noted that this time, quote, "the crystals aren't quite as shiny and like a rainbow as before. The rainbow was much dimmer." They move back over the vast green and blue lit world, high up on the suspended track. She sees the clear, calm sea again, the mist to the side. She sees the pyramid again. She's just going back through all of it. Dean, edit this out. My iRobot started. I need to stop it because it's going to come in my office and be very loud.
What is that?
What a world we live in.
My Roomba is going, and I don't know why. It's off. Oh, we're recording off schedule. That's why.
Oh.
Stop. Go back to your home.
That's so funny.
All right. Avoided that. Thank you. Sorry. It just I heard "whirr" out in the big room, and I'm like, oh, it's on the way.
Hilarious.
So yeah, they're gliding back through all of the stuff that they came through. Like I said, all that pyramids and stuff. And eventually, by the time they get back to the ship, she says her legs just feel like bricks and that they cannot be moved. As they continue on till they reach a division with the veil between the green world and the red world, she described it as, quote, "a square solid block of red glass and then a green one. And you could just put the two together." That's what it was like. She said moving between the barriers between the green world and the red world. It was like glass that you could just like press up against each other. It's almost like a wormhole in a weird way.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. So they glide back through this now the red cavernous world. And when they come back through the red world, her escorts once again put their black hoods back on. And it's only in this red world that they put their hoods on, and I don't understand why. But she's led by them. She sees all the same things, the stalk-eyed monkey creatures, the worm out there, the weird square buildings. They glide through the red world, and she sees ahead a whirling circle, the original mirror that she came through. And she says, quote, "We're breaking through that mirror now. Doesn't hurt, but we're going through it." And in an instant, they're plunged back into the blackness, that dark tunnel that she said was like chipped, like a coal tunnel from miners. And the only light is the silver shining suits of her two guides at this point. They glide along this black track for what feels, quote, like a long time. And finally, she sees light up ahead. She sees the glass seats of the half-cylinder room. The door, which was opaque from this side before, is now glass because I can see through.
I'm back to the MIB headquarters, y'all.
Basically, the door whooshes up. They glide inside. And back in this room, her two escorts finally remove their black hoods, putting them down somewhere, she said, putting them down someplace. And she then floated over to one of the chairs. But it's not the immersion chair she was in before. They sat her down in that strange seat there. That different one from all the others.
This one's called the diarrhea chair.
Got her.
It's a prank chair.
We're gonna watch it. She'll make a mess.
She was so freaked out when she saw the androgynous Egyptian sculpture dudes.
She says it was with that chair with those buttons and those steel things there. This is the fourth chair in the row, and now she's sitting in it, and they place her hands and arms on that thing on the, quote, metal bars. So they're like metal bars they put her hands and arms on. And I'm going to say this is for Alex to read, just a line.
And they're looking at me with their eyes somehow, and
Thank you. And then her body jumps violently once and then twice. This is during hypnosis. The investigators, as Fowler writes in the book, were startled at this moment. They say her whole body convulsed twice. And in the debriefing, she explained, quote, "He touched that button. I don't know what the purpose was.
He was pushing my buttons."
She had been given what she considers like 2 electrical jolts. She later said her eyes were closed when it happened. She said she saw the being touch the button without her eyes open. For some reason, she had like almost like a remote viewing experience for when she closed her eyes in there. I don't know. It's bizarre. After the jolts, she says she hears a, quote, whirring sound, and one of the beings comes over and opens her right eye for her. Then she's, quote, just floating off that seat. They float her in a sitting position again out of the jolt seat and back into the immersion chair she was on the way there. She's sealed in again. The tubes are put in her nose and her mouth again, and the gray liquid pours in from the top again.
Do you think it's easier the second time around, or now that she fears it sucks even worse?
Oh, definitely in much easier this time around. In fact, here's what she said, Alex.
Okay.
This is when she's like in the middle of being regressed, and in the hypnosis, she's getting that all of a sudden getting hit with the goo and the syrup.
Okay. They gave me some more of that syrup. It tastes good.
Yo,
Very
sucks.
sweet. It's sweet like a syrup.
Give me that syrup.
It's good.
Thick syrup. As she's floating in this tank, now happy and drugged, the beings tap on the glass. They telepathically ask her, "Betty, are you comfortable?" This is one of the only times in the entire...
That's more syrup than anybody's ever had. Are you good?
She's like, they're just looking at their fucking readouts like, she's still drinking. She's still drinking.
Are you good?
Mo, stop by now. Why is she drinking?
Where's she putting it all?
Crazy, girl. This is crazy, girl.
But because when they do ask though, in the whole event, this is one of the only times they show any concern for her. Most of the time they ignore her or just coldly telling her what to do. But in the debriefing, she noted, quote, "On the way back, they were much more sensitive, sympathetic toward my feelings." And the liquid then is filled up, and I assume the ship moves again. There's no feeling of movement, so to speak, for her, but like Some time passes and then the liquid is drained. The canopy is opened. The tubes are removed. She's wet again, coated by, quote, coated by oil or something, but they don't let her get up. She's floated out of the immersion chair and floated into the first one, the cold chair that she was in when she first got here. The enclosure snaps shut, but this time it's not cold. She says she, quote, I feel nice and warm. She said, quote, I can hear the air this time and it's warm, very warm. Maybe they were drying me off. I don't know. I was wet from that gray liquid. And as she's sitting in this warm chair, a, quote, fixture swiveled over her. It's a bright purplish color pink light shining down on her. And she said, quote, just like that bug catcher for insects, that purple light. It's like the purple light, like the mosquito zapper you hang out on your porch, basically. And while she's being dried by a big purple bug zapper light, one of her escorts goes over to, quote, 2 cylindrical pedestals and grabs 2 white balls, one bigger than the other. They're glowing glass-like spheres. After the warm air was done and she is dry, the dry air retracts, the canopy opens, and she's put back in her follow the leader spot in between them. Her escorts, now carrying these glowing white orbs, lead her back toward the elevator tube that they came in. The glide back to the elevator, the silvery tube came down first, and they're lowered through it, and the door opens. They are back. They are then, quote, back in that room. I see the hatch there, and on the floor it's up, and it's got a huge spring underneath it, a huge spring with 4 other springs. This is the room she'd been cleansed in when she first got brought on board. Her 2 escorts are still carrying the glowing white balls, and they just stop. They end up just standing there waiting. And Betty, very confused, just says, what are we waiting for? And they reply, Quasgar would like to speak to me. A door flashes open and Quasgar enters. He's back in his silver suit, not the blue one he wore in her home. And as he says something to the 2 that were escorting her, he then comes over to Betty. And, quote, Betty says, reached upward and placed his gloved hand on, or rather the author said, quote, he reached upward and placed his gloved hands on Betty's shoulder. His large mongoloid-like eyes gazed deeply into her own. Yeah, that is just a quote from a book in the 70s. Bizarrely racist for no reason. And
I had a joke book from the 70s one time that we found in our friend's garage. And
I cannot imagine that was any good.
The joke was this, ready? Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Dismay.
Dismay who?
Dismay come as a surprise, but I's your new neighbor.
That's so stupid.
Can you believe that?
That's so dumb.
Yeah.
Oh.
This was just a different time, but just a few short years ago. We must not forget how stupid people are.
Yeah, exactly correct. I got to go back to the aliens. I'm sorry. And as he's staring at her, she says his face changes. Betty described it as, quote, it seemed as if he were looking at me, but also at the others. Quote, his eyes got huge like a bee's eye, and one eye glowed white. The other eye had a black eyeball. She then says his face crinkled and, quote, 2 deep, dark furrows appeared that looked just like what she says are feelers. She was staring, she said, what looked like into a giant bee head.
What the fuck?
I don't know why. I don't understand.
This is what I'm talking about with this Lynchian nightmare type shit. Like after a while, it just becomes just like some like scary Game Squad shit. Yeah.
I wonder if this thing, if I'm gonna go into the world of believing it, I wonder if this thing's more closer to like what a mantid is, a mantid being, and it was like breaking down, like
close
holding
enough.
its like conscious shape, and like because after he does that, as he's looking into her and she sees this face change to this bee-like face, he then tells her, quote, child, you must forget for a while. And he says he says her, quote, your race won't believe me until much time has passed, or won't believe you until much time has passed.
Osmond Spare, dude.
Yeah, right. He says they, quote, love the human race and they have come to help. And then he gives this incredibly cryptic, almost biblical speech that, Alex, I'm going to have you read. This is Quasgar's big goodbye after he took on board. And
big goodbye sounds like an Alex episode of this show.
Quasgar's big goodbye happened in Redondo Beach in 1981. And only 15 people believe it was real. And 3 of them don't
he
speak
says
English.
that they love the human race. They have come to help. And then it goes here. The reason they have come to help.
Because of great love. They cannot let man continue in the footsteps that he is going. It is better to lose some than to lose all. Man must understand many of the natural things on earth. If man will just study nature itself, he will find many of the answers that he seeks. Within fire are many answers. Within ashes, within the highest of the high, and the lowest of the low are many answers. Klaatu, Niktu, Baradum.
But it's interesting because it's like, I don't know, to me that speaks of like the idea of like as above, so below, right? You know, things that look microscopic also have a bear or resemblance to with the way our universe looks, right? Like that idea of like the answers are there. Things to me, jumps quantum mechanics stuff. A little bit. Yeah, kind of idea. He tells her that, quote, they have had others here. Many others have locked within their mind secrets. And he is locking within yours, she says, he is locking within my mind certain secrets. They will be revealed when the time is right. And he finishes, his face is changed. And when he finishes, his face changes back to what normal as a gray could look. And then he goes, go child now and rest. Quasgod then leads her out of that room through another opening and, quote, up at that place where I first came in, and the door is opening. This is the quarter bubble anteroom, and the door to the outside is now open. Betty can see the edge of her house protruding from the bank of ground fog. She had realized they had brought her home, but Quasgod isn't coming with her. He stays behind, and the other two beings, the ones in the silver suits, are her escorts. They jump down one at a time, and she floats down between them, back onto the damp ground at this point. And the two beings are still carrying those glowing white spheres. The one in front has the bigger one. She says somewhere between 8 and 10 inches, and he's rolling it over the back of his hand like a fushigi ball, is how I imagine it, where it just sat eventually kind of at the tap of his hand and defied gravity. The one in the back is holding the smaller one still. They walk back into the kitchen. They went through the porch door and walking through it. They didn't open it. And she's just following them going in. As they phase back through the solid locked door that they just came in, Betty is now standing in her kitchen. She has just been flowed back through the locked door now to set the scene, following her two silvered suit escorts. The being in front of her is holding the large white sphere in her kitchen now. And the being with the larger ball turns and glides, quote, over toward the pantry part of the kitchen. He stops near the sink, quote, and raised his hand, holding it up and pointing toward the window. And at that moment, Betty gasped. Her father, Wino Aho, who she thought was frozen in the living room, quote, shuffled out of the shadows. He had apparently been in the pantry in suspended animation the entire time.
Literally,
after he saw out the kitchen window.
Interstellar?
Well, he went to go see out the window, and she thought he walked back into the bedroom. Nope, he was. No, yeah, I know. Like, don't go. He's in the pantry. He got suspended animation in the pantry. So, like, he walks
straight out of Chrono Trigger, dude.
It's like, what happened, dude? So apparently, he just walks out in a daze. The being who seems to be controlling him with the glowing ball lowers his hand, and she says, quote, and my father stopped there. The being then raises his hand again, and my father starts following him, walking like a robot into the living room. Betty yells, are you all right, Daddy? Daddy! But he doesn't answer her. He just walks into the living room with the other being. She's left in the kitchen with the second being, the one holding the smaller ball, who just will not answer her no matter what she says. The first being eventually glides back into the kitchen, and he tells her, quote, Betty, now will you follow us? She gets back in line, and they all glide into the living room. The scene is actually kind of just as she left it, she said. Her mother, Eva, is still frozen, sitting in her chair. Her children are still all sitting there motionless. But then she sees her 11-year-old daughter, Becky. Alex, this is a quote from Betty about when she sees Becky.
Becky's sitting there, and she's smiling and grinning. She seems to be awake. She seems as if she's up, standing up, just smiling at me. Just standing there. Her expression isn't changing now. She seems to be frozen in that smile.
Mm-mm.
This dead ass is Silent Hill, dude.
I know. Dude, if you ever listen to the tapes, and you can listen.
You know when he goes to get that little key and that little girl comes by and kicks it? That is what's happening right now.
Mm-mm. Well, apparently what had happened is Becky had been thawed just long enough to see her mother return. Remember, she left with Becky, not knowing that Becky was still in her conscious mind, but unfrozen. Like her mind hadn't been frozen. No gap
But you're
of time.
saying
She was
thawed
conscious.
like it was in a block of ice?
Yeah, well, I'm saying thawed in a narrative way where I mean, like they get let go out of suspended animation.
Okay.
Becky had been released from suspended animation just long enough to see her mother return and then frozen again in that smiling grin. That's why she was smiling. She had saw her mom smiled and then being noticed and froze her again like you're not supposed to be awake.
What the fuck?
Betty's staring at this. One of the beings gives her the final command saying, Jesse, you can be the alien being here.
Great.
This is alien being playing with a big 8 to 10 inch white glowing ball in his hands.
And that one is saying, oh, hold on. And that one is saying, Betty, you will have to forget this, you and your family, for the time being. There are many other things that we would have told you. They will come out at the appointed time. They did not.
The being then points and says, the book over there. And Betty sees the little blue book. Remember the little book they traded initially?
Yes, I remember.
It's still sitting on the end table.
It was
The being tells her, quote, we are now going to put you to rest. Betty panics about her kids, but they reassure her, saying that they have not been harmed. And then one of the beings takes the children to bed.
Like takes them into the other room?
Takes them upstairs.
Like in their arms, like a baby?
No, not quite like that. Betty watches, stunned, as, quote, the little ones are standing up. They're moving, just all getting in line. And they're just marching off through the hall.
Like the
and I can
Pied
hear them
Piper.
on the steps because our stairs are squeaky. They're all going up the stairs. Basically, they got like little programmed robots. They were just like sent them to bed.
That's so
being
fun.
marched to their rooms. Betty is left in the living room with her frozen mother, though, still there. And the second being, who still won't talk to her, by the way, the second one with the smaller ball. And suddenly the first being is, quote, just suddenly in front of me. I didn't even see him come in. He's just there. He's holding the large ball closer to her face at this point, and then, quote, taking my mother and father with them into the hall, into my bedroom. He reappears just as suddenly in front of her again. And this time, his, quote, hands held what looked like a glowing green candle and the white ball. Betty, in her terror, demands to know this alien's name, since this wasn't the other one. And he replied with his name. His name is Jewhop.
Okay.
Say that. Can you say that one more time?
Yeah, no problem. I'll copy paste it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna try that one.
Joohop.
Yeah, no, I see it.
Is it like
I'm good.
Dwop? Like,
I
are we
read the
saying
book,
it
so I
wrong?
don't
Is
know.
this a pronunciation
I didn't
thing?
listen to the entire tape, so I don't actually know.
It sounds like Mathis is saying it right, which is why I don't think I'm gonna take a shot at it.
Well, this being tells her the blue book is, quote, given to you for a while. It is writing that will be discerned only through the spirit.
He's writing.
It is, and it's the writing of light. He says it contains, quote, formulas and riddles and poems for man to understand nature. He then tells Betty for her to follow him, and he leads her up the creaking stairs. But he doesn't take her to her own room. He takes her, quote, into the white and purple room, one of the children's rooms. He tells her, quote, now that I will rest, she says, now that I will rest and I will forget all that has happened until the time is ready. Alex, you can take this.
And he's raising that ball, and I'm getting undressed and pulling the covers down, and I'm crawling in bed just like I was a little child. And I'm covering up and looking up at him, and he still has this big ball of light. And he's bending over me, and he's waving his hand over my face.
Mm-hmm. And she's laying there. He gives, I guess, what I assume is like a post-hypnotic suggestion to forget. And as he does, she hears it and, quote, whirring and starting up something like a big motor or roaring, like a whirring, roaring noise. And it's coming over from the right-hand side by Becky's little bedroom. This was the sound of the ship leaving. The roaring eventually fades, and Betty in the small bed is now, quote unquote, asleep.
More like Betty.
Betty in the small bed.
Yeah. The next thing she knew, it was morning. Betty, under hypnosis, recalled waking up in her child's bed, and in her words, I jump out of the bed and I feel very happy. She could hear her kids downstairs and her father, Wino, quote, talking in a sort of baby talk to Cindy. It was, again, as she walks back down, it's like that family just went back to normal. Her 11-year-old daughter, Becky, also recalled waking up in her own bed with no memory of how she got there. She came downstairs, quote, she said, and the kids were all fooling around. Mom must have had us. And the kids were all fooling around. Mom must have had it ready for us because we had pancakes. The forget command had worked perfectly, pretty much on all of them. The children remembered seemingly nothing. Her mother Eva claimed,
believe that the aliens made them pancakes like the fucking Keebler elves?
No. It was she got down before.
That is exactly what you're. That is exactly right. The alien said, "Do you guys like syrup or what's your vibe?"
Yeah. No, the mom woke up early. She was feeling good and happy, and she went to making pancakes and getting ready while her parents were already downstairs with the youngest, who was 3. Then later in the morning, the 11-year-old woke up. She came down the stairs, and she's like, she remembers the pancakes being there.
Pancakes were there. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, she's like, I remember that. The only 2 people who actually seemingly remembered anything last night, because, her mother, Eva, claimed that to have blinked and the entire night was gone. She doesn't know what happened in the last night. She's like, I don't remember going to bed. I don't know what happened. Her husband, James, was still in the hospital, so he didn't experience anything. And the only 2 people who remembered anything were Betty and her father, Wino. And they were both pretty terrified. As we mentioned, Wino had confronted Betty in the kitchen that night, saying, quote, my God, I think I've just seen a flying saucer. That's when he went out there and looked at the light and all that stuff. And afterward, he said, don't you tell nobody, they'll lock us up. A pact of silence. That's in that moment, a pact of silence of form. That's the only acknowledgement he ever gave Betty that this happened.
Just that one
he said
time
to him the next morning, don't you tell nobody, they'll lock us up. That's all he said. But Betty was feeling good. He was not about it, but she said, fine. And when Betty asked her father about it again, he said, quote, told me yes, but he did not want to get involved in it in any way. After that, he refused to talk about it ever again. He didn't want to talk about it. But then, about 3 days later, 11-year-old Becky came to her mother. She said, Mommy, I had a strange dream. She was clearly scared. And she said, it was upsetting me so much I had to tell my mom. Betty realized her daughter wasn't just forgetting. She was actually remembering through the dreams. So Betty pulled her into the bedroom, and because she had given the dreams were broken up experiences of what happened in the house that night.
Sure, right.
And
so she was like
goes
piecing it together, kind of.
Yeah. And here we go. I'll give you the quote. This is for Alex to read.
This is from the girl?
Yeah. No, this is for Betty explaining to the daughter what she said. This is what Betty said to the daughter when she was talking about the dream.
Mommy is going to tell you that it wasn't any dream, honey. It really happened. But don't tell anybody, will you? I said, I'll show you. And I did take the blue book out.
Okay. The book is still here. So Betty grabs this thing, goes to the closet or bedroom where she had, quote unquote, hidden it underneath a box earlier that morning. And the beings had told her to keep it hidden, apparently, because it must not be seen by any that were not worthy. She gets interrupted by her sons coming in for water, hides the book, then goes back to get it again. And she brings this little thin blue book out and shows it to her 11-year-old daughter. She told Becky, quote, it's from Jesus. And Becky's face just lit right up. She was so happy and excited over it because Betty still thinks this is fucking religious. She still thinks this is a religious experience.
There's no reason for her not to, I guess, right?
Yeah, no, seriously, because they never said no. They just played around around it.
She was like a religious person have questions of how come none of this is in the Bible? None of this.
There are mentions of Phoenix in the Bibles. No red.
No, yeah, there's not and then Jesus saw the gray worm a squirming. That's not in there.
I don't know.
The worm in the ashes that look kind of like a penis.
But apparently Becky said she immediately recognized the book, and she said, quote, that's what they gave you, Mommy. I remember that's what they gave you, because she was in the living room, still conscious in her mind at that moment when they were handing her the book. And then something happens. Betty opens the book to one of the first 3 pages, which she had described as quote, snow white, luminous white. And then Becky, the 11-year-old, touches the page. Go ahead, Jesse, you could take this quote. This is Betty saying what happened.
She touched one of the white pages and her little hand glowed from it. She touched the second white page and her little hand glowed from it. She just said, "Look, Mama."
Which is like the books, the Bible copies they made, when they were glowing white pages in her house. Her daughter's hand is glowing from touching this alien book, and Betty just says, I know. She was reliving, she knew, like, kind of had a moment of reliving the memory in this moment, she says, and she said it gave her goosebumps. After this, Betty kept the book hidden, and for the next week or so, her life was a strange secret duality. Her parents went back home, the kids went back to school, and Betty, alone in the house, would sit at the table and study the blue book. She said she didn't want to leave it, that it was too important, and she's looking at this book filled with symbols she can't read. She said there's a pyramid with a shoot on it, an arrow. It's all very strange.
That's a pyramid.
Nice. But the beings had told her that she would only have it, quote, for a time. Remember, that was part of it. She's like, you can have it for a time. They specifically said, quote, it would be 10 days that it would be 10 days that I would have to look at it. And sure enough, about 9 days after her parents left, she went to get it and it wasn't there. She said that she was scared because it was gone. She searched everywhere thinking her kids had gotten a hold of it, but then she realized the truth. The book was gone. The aliens must have taken it back, just as they said they were going to when they gave it to her. She had no idea. All she was left with was the trauma and now the splinter in her mind because of missing time and a handful of bizarre cryptic poems that she would write down. Her subconscious, again, talking about all this weird shit. 8 years, for the next 8 years, Betty is then left with just the splinter of that memory with the missing time, the terror, the strange cryptic blue book that she remembers having for like a week. And she's also left with the physical after effects, like the unexplained pustules that ended up forming around her navel where they inserted the tool, and the psychological ones like her daughter Becky's automatic writing of bizarre, strange symbols that would occur. These weird things would kind of just pop up again and again over the years until 1977, when Ray Fowler's investigative team and Dr. Harold Edelstein, the hypnotist, pull this entire traumatic story back out of her subconscious over the course of 13 exhaustive sessions of hypnotherapy. And this is where the story gets its kind of final layer of high strangeness, because the affair wasn't just in 1967. The quote unquote affair continued into the investigation itself. On July 16th, 1977, the team is in session 12 of this. They are pressing Betty, who is deep under hypnosis, for more details, and they want to know more about the blue book and any predictions, quote unquote, for the future the beings might have given her. One of the investigators, David Webb, asks, can you reveal these now? Because, like, remember, she was saying until the time is right. And Betty pauses. Fowler writes that her face, quote, became contorted. It looked as if she was struggling against someone or something that was taking control of her speech facilities. Then, in a slow, halting, what they describe as mechanical voice, as if she's a puppet, she says the following. Alex, this is for you.
They have things on control.
Oh, boy.
They are in the heavens. They have powers. I don't like them controlling my words.
You don't know me.
That's my words. I don't know you.
She's in, this is in the hypnosis session, 1977. She's telling the investigators that the aliens are, what she's saying is like they're there right now controlling her, stopping her from saying or whatever. She says, quote, I know I'm there in 1967, but I'm here also. She's basically saying like they're in the time she's being abducted, they're actively suppressing her hypnosis regressions now. Sounds like time, like a weird time loop type situation. And then I'm going to let Jesse read this, because then she starts speaking in an unknown language. And this is a phonetic rendition from the tape of what she says.
Boy.
And now I'm just going to make you do it.
Thanks.
No problem.
Oh, Tokara, Bohatama, Holata, and Flora, Hataratra, Itra Meek Olatra.
Hoodoo.
And it was but on the tape it was more like, oh, Tukara, Boma, you know, like they're speaking in
She's
tongues.
speaking in tongues. Like that.
Yes,
Okay,
correct. And this is like this foreign language in the middle of this hypnosis session. She tells the investigators, I'm just saying it. I don't know what they're saying. They're just saying it to me. They basically hijack, like these beings, if we're to again, accept that they're real, are hijacking this hypnosis session. They're now clearly speaking through her directly to the investigators like a possession case. And the team, now stunned, starts asking the aliens questions like she's a tool. And they immediately ask what the beings want. And go ahead, Alex, because this is what what they responded.
You tried to seek in wrong directions. Simplicity round about you. Air. You breathe. Water. You drink. Fire. That warms earth. Simplicity.
Yep. They ask if the beings then are trying to protect man. And Betty's voice replies, no and yes, because other worlds are involved in man's world. Man is very arrogant and greedy. They ask how many other alien races are visiting Earth right now. What's your guess? What do you think of these guys? I just want to know. Round number, or give me a number.
3. 200.
Technically, Alex is closer.
Ah, boo.
70. 70 of them.
70?
See? Yep. 70 different races, all working together, quote, except for the offensive one. So 69 nice ones.
Nice.
Thank you. And one bad one, for whatever reason. They ask if the beings can travel in time. The voice says, yes, they can reverse time. They ask if they've been here long. They say, since the beginning of time. The investigators are now going back and forth with this thing. Betty is kind of like a translator, I guess you would describe her as. And they ask if they can help the beings in their search for knowledge. And the voice gives the single, I don't know, Jesse, this is their response when the investigators ask if they're here for searching for knowledge.
You would not have gotten this far, nor gained this much information had we not desired to help you.
Yeah, TLDR, you only know what we're letting you know. It's it's a dumb question. The beings are just not the subject here. They're very much acting like they're in control of everything here. This weird little channeling event proved to the investigative team that what had happened to Betty Andreasson in 1967, at the very least for her, she didn't seem like it was over for her. It was still ongoing in some way, and that in itself was, I would imagine, pretty scary for those involved. But again, Betty is weirdly just kind of okay with all this. She just sees it as God communicating with her. The hijacking of this hypnosis session, the entity speaking directly through Betty to the investigators, it proved to the team that they weren't just digging up a dead memory. This is for them was very convincing. They thought they were actively poking at something that was like still there and could poke back. They had made it clear that they wouldn't have gotten to humans or wouldn't have gotten this far without them. And this was like, again, at session 12, toward the end of a years-long sessions of hypnosis over time. They realized for them, at least according to the book, that the beings were preventing them from getting certain information, specifically about the blue book that they were trying to poke around for. The investigation after 13 exhaustive sessions was finally drawing to a close, and Betty was preparing to move her family to Florida to be near relatives and start a new life. The team was left with a 528-page report, a plaster bust of Quasga's head, and a story that defied any and all rational explanation.
Damn.
But the high strangeness oddly wasn't fully done with Betty. Yeah, were you going to say something, Alex?
I just said, damn.
Oh, damn. We're almost done, though. In fact, it seemed to be that the weird high strangeness was now arranging around her in her life. And I accompany this to the phenomenon known as the hitchhiker effect. Like once you see something about your mind understands what to look for, or like it sees it more. But other weird, more tragic, I wouldn't necessarily call it alien things happened as well. Because the first thing that happened was tragedy. Just days before she was supposed to leave to Florida, her father, Wino, the man who had stood at the window and seen the grasshoppers in the snow, was hospitalized with cancer and died on August 27th, 1977.
Not Wino, man.
Not Wino, bro. He had been one of the only other conscious witnesses, and now he was gone. We did get him that signed confession letter out of him before that, though, at least. And Betty, grieving, moved her family to Florida still, found work as a waitress, and tried to start over. And this is where the story's, like, what I would consider the story's epilogue that would lead into the next 4 books really starts. because it starts with a weird coincidence, which a lot of like high strangest things do. In Florida, Betty meets a man named Bob Luca. Their meeting was a complete accident. Bob was on a cross-country trip with a friend and, quote, was not going to Florida, but for some reason they went. And through a friend of a coworker, he hears about Betty and her UFO experience. And he immediately says, I've got to meet her and I want to talk with her. This dude has me energy at the very least. I'd be like, please, let me talk. I don't want to know.
I got to
meet her. But the one thing that he has that I don't have, and I understand why he's more interesting than I am, is because Bob was also an abductee. His experience also happened in 1967, and it happened just a few months after Betty's. He was driving to a beach in Connecticut when he saw two, quote, large, bright cigar-shaped objects. He watched two smaller oval objects drop out of one of them. One sped off, but the other headed right for him and descended like a falling leaf, he described it, before it disappeared behind some trees. He remembered feeling very anxious and thinking, they're coming after me. The next thing he remembered, it was over 3 hours later, and he was arriving at the beach. He had no memory of what happened in that missing time, and for 10 years, just like Betty, he'd been searching anything to find out what had happened to him. So Betty and Bob met, and they are two abductees from the same year, brought together by what seems like sheer impossible chance that they would, in fact, later also get married. This was like,
okay,
she found somebody here. Because something else we learn in the book is that this event put a huge strain on her marriage to her current husband. This just changed her life. It changed her life in a way that it often does. It didn't make her rich. Not many people get rich off of this, but it strained the relationship and it ruined a few things. But she found happiness in somebody else. And the first time they ever talked was on the phone, and they talked about his experience. After Bob had his first preliminary interview with the investigators, it happened again. On October 19th, 1977, Bob called Betty to tell her about his interview. They're just chatting, and suddenly Betty said, quote, we were interrupted by a voice, and I knew right away it was them. It wasn't Quasga. It wasn't the I am voice, but it was a new voice, a, quote, male voice, livid with anger, spoke to them in an unintelligible tongue. Jesse, this is Betty's description of this phone call.
It was like a different language. There was a lot of L's and a lot of T's in it. It was fast, like a record was put on fast speed, but even though it was fast, the words were very clear. It was like somebody was excited and quick. The words were really clear.
And Bob could hear it too. Betty asked the voice to speak up louder, and it did. They were both silently listening to this angry, bizarre alien voice ranting at them through they're on like a phone, like a physical phone line from back in the day. And Betty said she, quote, was getting very nervous and upset because they said something about it is done and it is finished. And then the sound changed, and this is for Alex. This is still Betty.
I could hear some sort of a noise, like some kind of heavy machinery was being set up. Clickings and noises like they were putting things in order or to start something rolling. They kept on talking, and I think Bob was getting a little shook up over it.
So they panicked and hung up. Betty immediately called the investigators to report what had happened. She was seemingly terrified over the phone, and the voice was so angry and it had said, quote, it is done. She felt it was like a threat or a warning that something has to happen. And she, to her belief, she was right. 24 hours later, she said her fears were realized. Betty and Bob hung up the phone, terrified. Betty convinced the angry voice that in the clicking machinery were a direct threat. And here's what I want you to read, Jesse.
I went into the room where Todd and Becky were, and I said, Becky and Todd, the beings were just on the telephone, and they were really mad. They were ripping mad. And Becky got really scared. She jumped up and said, Mommy, don't say things like that. That scares me. I'm not sleeping in this room all by myself now.
That's a fair response for an 11-year-old, though. So the whole family, Betty and her kids, huddled together in the living room for safety, and they all slept in the living room floor that night. At about 3 o'clock in the morning, Becky woke up screaming, Ma, Ma. Betty woke up instantly. She said, it's all right, Becky. I know it's here. It's okay. Don't be afraid. The room was not dark. Betty said, there were lights all through the living room and a roaring, a combination of noises like cars, trains, and airplanes, all sorts of noises in that room. And then they both saw it. Quote, suddenly a big, huge ball of light swooshed right over my bed and disappeared. and a big, huge ball of light flew through their living room and vanished, filling the room with a deafeningly unearthly roar, and the house was once again being visited. Betty and Bob had reported the angry phone call to the investigators, and Betty then met with Ray Fowler in person on October 21st to tell him about the phone call and the terrifying ball of light incident. She was, Fowler writes, filled with anxiety about the future, convinced something was about to happen. And that 24 hours later came to realization. In October 22nd, 1977, the bold headlines of the Sentinel and Enterprise newspapers spelled out the news, Westminster crash kills 2 brothers. Betty's 2 sons at this point in time, James, age 21, Todd, age 17, were killed in a horrific single-car automobile accident.
Wait, and before, her dad was also in a crash, too.
Yep.
What the fuck, dude?
Her husband was in a car crash.
That's right, her
too.
husband, not her father. Yeah.
Her father died of cancer. Now her 2 sons got in a car crash. The investigators were, in Fowler's own words, shocked and saddened at the event. And this brought the death toll of people who had been associated with their investigation to 4, which included Betty's father, Wino, and another. That's a whole other story that I had to cut because read the book. There's so much in the book. There's another investigator who ended up dying during this shit. As objective investigators, they tried to convince themselves that the angry voice on the phone was merely just a coincidence, bad signal, crossing lines or whatever. And they even found a logical reason for the car crash, but the timing was just weird and it lingered over their minds the whole time. Fowler then points out a kind of weird parallel. This exact thing had been reported before. In 1967, the same year as Betty's abduction, a woman named Rita Malley in Ithaca, New York, had her car, quote, taken control of by a domed disc object. Her 5-year-old son was put into a trance, and while she was in this state, she heard weird, broken, and jerky voices like they heard over their phone. Quote, the voices named someone I knew and said that at that moment, my friend's brother was involved in a terrible accident miles away. And the very next day, she received word that her friend's brother, Paul Donalds, had been killed in a serious automobile accident. The aliens had given her a weird prophetic warning of a fatal car crash, if we're to believe the other person's event. And that's like Betty's experience, like a weird dark mirror to all that stuff. And Betty's own conclusion was pretty firm. She believed differently than the investigators. She was convinced that the alien voice on the phone was that of a fallen or evil angel who hinted at and caused the tragic deaths of her sons. She believed that because of her abduction, she was, quote, caught in the midst of a supernatural battle between good and evil, and that this is the terror of that would become the Andreasson Affair and why she believed in it so heavily. Like I said, she the whole time, it doesn't matter how far away from the event you get, she fully believes it is 100% religious and all this. And I get it. It comes from how she was raised, and that's why she's such an interesting focus for this subject. But that's where we're going to have to leave Betty Andreasson's story. At least this version captured in the first book, because obviously, here's the thing. This wasn't the end for Betty. There's a lot more that happened according to the other books. Raymond Fowler would go on to write 4 more books about Betty's experiences. That's what I'm saying. The case didn't close in 1977. It kept going. Betty would eventually obviously met Bob Luca. They married, and he turned out to be an abductee. Betty's experience continued throughout the 80s and 90s. She reported more contacts, more abductions, more impossible events. The Andreasson Affair became a saga in and of itself. And honestly, depending on who you ask, that's either proof of something genuinely weird and profound happening to this woman, or proof that, once again, once you open the door and you accept the framework, it just can never stop, or she's just completely delusional in her own mind. I'm curious what you boys think as we approach the end of this on the take of this entire affair.
I think the most likely answer, of course, is that like she believes things to be real that aren't real. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like she believes that things happened to her while she was dreaming or half conscious that happened while she was less conscious. The most likely, because otherwise there's no other, like I could say maybe she was on drugs. Maybe something happened. Maybe she took some sort of bad water in her pipes and she fucking tripped out and saw the things that we all see when we take psychedelic drugs.
The fathers and the daughters experience. They didn't go on that trip. They were in the living room and they just had the moment of being frozen and seeing the beings and stuff. And they all say they saw it.
That's true, but we weren't there. And like that type of thing is always the weirdest type of thing. And they're young. Sure. And like, I just think if somebody believes it hard enough, it's like chaos magic. It's like almost like it does become kind of real. And like going backwards, like a lot of experiences that people have with psychedelics are like, the question comes up, is it real, or are you just sort of creating it with your mind? Are you generating it? And the answer seems to be that like, there's not much difference between the two in the ultimately. And like, yeah, like, I don't know, like it could be that these aliens are like thought based, you know what I mean? And they could be literally happening in a dream, like, because they're psychic, or they might just be life forms that exist only as memories,
consciousness related.
Yeah, you've never
and that's
seen
why everything has this weird
Arrival?
symbolic shit to it.
It does have all the hallmarkings of a person who's just making stuff up to like get attention. But with that said, on a personal level, I want this for her.
Yeah, and I don't think she was lying.
J. Allen Hynek only endorsed the first book about the initial investigation. Everything else that happened that she claims happens in the 80s and 90s to her, J. Allen Hynek is not involved.
I firmly believe this is like, in my mind, this has all the hallmarks of like you said, 7 kids, a mom in a marriage that clearly wasn't vibing with her. She has to deal with family too. This sounds a lot like, a lot of wishful thinking on like, I'm important. I'm more important than just being this birthing thing for you. Like, there's that vibe. But with that said, I want this for her. I hope this is real for her. Me too. Because hell yeah, there's a lot in this that's so weird and bizarre that I dig it. I dig it tremendously.
Well, to put a button on it, no matter what you think, whether you think Betty encountered angels, aliens, interdimensional beings, or something her own traumatized mind created to process an inexplicable event, the Andreasson Affair, I think, forces you to ask, what do we do with a story like this? And what do we do with a witness like Betty? And unfortunately, we don't have an answer. Nobody does. But maybe that's the entire point.
Oh,
and we'll end our episode there.
End.
Thank you. I'm so glad we got Andreasson Affair done. I so thought this was something we'd done, but we did not. One of my favorite abduction stories, real or not, is still so fucking weird.
Almost
very
through
fun.
the looking glass-esque.
Yeah. It's
almost
very weird.
I don't even know. So bizarre.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Well, thank you all so much for listening. Thank you, boys, for dealing with more aliens and all that. We will be back next week with a brand new episode. We're going to go off to patreon.com/ChilluminatiPod right now to do a mini-sode. We appreciate you all. We love you very much. And we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.